Other groups, town pages, and so forth.
Good evening, everyone. It's just now 7 o'clock, but we still have people coming in the room, so we're going to wait for another 3 or 4 minutes so that we can get everybody in. There are some seats up front, so if you want to come and sit down, feel free to fill in here and on the other side. There are some seats in the front. We'll get started in 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for coming. Before we begin the formal presentation, just a very quick safety moment. This is a fairly full room. In the unlikely event of a fire or some other emergency, there are exits through the door that you came through. There's also exits on either side of the stage. Those exits lead to fire escapes. So if you have to leave the building for an emergency, please use the exit that's closest to you. If it's just for something regular, please exit out the back, as my understanding is the doors up front are alarmed as we tripped one of those. And with that out of the way, my name is Lee Hoffman. I'm an attorney with Pullman and Comley in Hartford, and I'm also the project's attorney. And I want to thank all of you for coming out today. It's a very important issue, and there's going to be a lot of ideas exchanged tonight. And seriously, we want to thank you for coming out here tonight, listening to the presentation, sharing with us your questions, your comments, your concerns. It's really important that we do this, and we're gratified by the response that we're getting. You will see there's 2 cameras here in addition to the other cameras. This meeting is being recorded. The recording will be up on our website. There's a QR code in the back on that sign. There will be QR codes on the slide presentations and everything else. So if you want to refer back to this meeting, it will be available to the public. You will be able to see it. So feel free to come back and watch it. Tony, you want to hit the next slide? We're gonna go through a presentation. Bill Corvo is going to talk about the benefits of the project to the state and to the community of Plainfield. Rick Audette will then lead a technical discussion, giving an overview of the project as well as the various and sundry intricate technical issues that are involved. We have a series of technical experts. When we came before the town last year, we heard loud and clear what the town's primary concerns were. They were in no particular order up there on the agenda: traffic, solid waste, odor, noise, air emissions, surface water and groundwater use, as well as controlling ash. And we will go over every one of those, and we have a series of technical experts to talk to those issues. When we're done, we will leave plenty of time for questions, answers, and comments from members of the audience. What we would ask is that you come up to this mic. I'll sit down and not be here. Come up to this mic, ask your questions, give your comments. We would ask that you limit them to 3 minutes to start. It's a big room, and a lot of people are going to want to have something to say. And so we ask that we limit those comments to 3 minutes just to start. If you have more than 3 minutes, feel free to get back in line. We're willing to stay here for as long as it takes so that everybody gets their full say, but we also want to give everybody a chance to have that say. And if you would also give us your name and where you're from. We will probably not be able to answer every question here tonight. The questions we can answer, we will answer live and in real time. But if we need to get back to you with an answer, we will. We'll also post the Q&A on the website, and the answers that we have, we will post on our website as well. We will also be providing a report on this meeting tonight to the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Part of why we're here is to make sure that the community is fully informed about the project. And with that, I'd like to introduce the project team. I'll be going down this way. So as I mentioned, Bill Corvo is the project manager for Smart Technologies. That is the developer that is building this project here in Plainfield. Smart is a joint venture between ONG Industries of Torrington and Advanced Waste Technologies, Inc. Their brief bios are there. In addition, I am the project lawyer, and my law firm is Pullman and Comley, and that's up there. Not going to insult you by reading that. And then we have a series of technical experts. TRC is a leading environmental services company, and they've been assisting us with air quality issues, noise and odor abatement, as well as solid waste issues in order to get this project to work. SLR does our traffic and our water and wastewater and stormwater engineering. Valmet is a Finnish company that has really revolutionized the waste industry in Europe. They're a Finnish company, and the technology that we're using would be the first of its kind here in the States. and then bulk handling systems, or BHS, which has a fantastic system that actually processes the waste ahead of where it goes, so that recyclables are pulled out, organic material is pulled out, and the waste is really dealt with in a very advanced 21st century way. And representatives of BHS are here as well. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Bill Corvo to talk about the benefits of the project.
Thank you, Lee. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's important that everybody in this room understand that we are here not just to tell you about what the SMART process is all about, but also to listen to your concerns. And we will take them seriously. We've been following everybody's comments in the public realm, Facebook, petitions, everything. So our idea is, this is a kind of a public conversation, and what you have to say is important to us. We will react positively and try to make our project better at every step along the way and less negative impact if possible. The real benefits of what we have put together with the SMART Municipal Solid Waste Process System is that we have married a number of technologies together that you're going to hear these gentlemen and ladies address and explain to you in more detail. So I'm not going to belabor that point. But this is a unique system that we have put together where we marry a whole bunch of technologies. So that,
Speak up!
can you hear me now?
Pull your mic down a little bit.
It's very low. Can you hear me now? Thank you very much. I'm not going to start at the beginning again. At the end of the day, the most important element is that you get to see the presentation material and listen to the technical people who have world-class expertise. That being said, there are special benefits which apply specifically to Plainfield. Those benefits include reduction of local taxes. The reason that happens is because this project is a sizable project, and it will be able to provide, once completed, several $1 million per year in new tax revenue.
We're poor, we get it.
I couldn't hear you.
She said, we're poor, we get it.
Okay. Thank you. The idea is, the revenue stream is so substantial, and we will work hand in glove with the town if we get approval to do this project, to make sure that those benefits materialize. The second major element, and it's not going to be the biggest employer in the town. We've got a number of pretty good sized entities that have come into town recently with hundreds of jobs. But that being said, this facility will provide a minimum of 160 long-term jobs.
How much of it is gainful?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
How much of it is gainful? How much is going to keep up with the cost of living?
Excuse me. I've just been told by our attorney, we're going to have questions and answers later. I'm not going to interrupt myself again. The other element that's important that we're bringing forward for Plainfield to benefit from would be stabilization of your local municipal solid waste costs. Everybody has to have their garbage taken care of. And as you are probably aware, the cost of processing garbage has increased quite substantially, and I've got news that it's going to increase even more. And that's because we're taking millions of tons of Connecticut waste hundreds of miles away to be dropped into a landfill so that we can then get methane and other greenhouse gas pollution coming back to Connecticut. And what we would suggest doing is we would specifically work with the town to try and set up an MSW processing system where the smart process would be able to take care of the Plainfield municipal solid waste at the most reasonable price possible. Finally, when you see the mapping, you're going to see that we have created an island of development in the middle of a 512 acre parcel. And the total size of the island of development is 81.2 acres. In doing that, we have, based on our conversations with the permitting people, we have set aside areas of conservation to support the development. And what this does is it creates a buffer, a substantial buffer of 150 acres for conservation alone. And that goes on the west side of the parcel and to the south. And it also creates approximately 31 acre conservation area to the north. So you've got revenue, tax revenue, increases in local employment, stabilization of your local MSW processing systems and costs. And we're taking every step that we can to do this so that we will have proper conservation of the property so that it does not impact on our neighbor. That completes the initial presentation on the special benefits. I'd like to call up my good friend Rick Audette, who is the project director at O&G, and he will begin to provide you with a discussion of major technical issues. Rick?
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me? Sure you can hear me. I can talk very loud. I was in the Marine Corps, so I know how to talk loud. Okay? I want to thank you all for coming. I'm an engineer. Been an engineer for 46 years. I happen to be, I drove by a plant today I worked on 395. It was in Killingham. I was with ABB. We built that 520 megawatt plant 31 years ago, put that plant in. Okay? So I may age myself, because my wife keeps saying, another meeting? You're going to another meeting? Yes, I am. And I took on this project. By the way, I worked with the O&G for the last 27 years. I'm very proud of that. And I took this project on because of the technology. We visited this technology in Finland, in Europe. We spent a week there. We've never seen anything like this. And as I've noticed in my travels around the world building power plants, the Europeans and the rest of the world is so far ahead of us in the US, we just don't want to admit it many times. We're still putting our trash in landfills and letting it do all the methane. Everybody talks about CO2. Well, they don't do that there. They haven't done it in over 75 years, almost 100. Okay? This project here, and I'll go very quickly because my attorney said we got to move it along. Okay. So we'll move it along. Real quickly, guys. I got you. Okay, it's real simple. Project's on 82 acres. There's 3 building blocks to this technology. First building block, would you see the arrow, is what we call the sorting facility. That's why BHS, gentlemen here will come up and talk to you about this. That's where we pull out all the plastics, the cardboard, the paper, the inerts. What's inerts? What is that? It's metals, it's batteries, it's tires. There's no toxics on this site, by the way. Nothing is kept on this site. I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, we can get to that. You have questions and answers. Okay. The next thing is it's a dry anaerobic digester. What is that? Okay, we take the organics, which are the food waste, that are in the trash. You know, we all do it. We put our food waste in the trash bags that are picked up, that your trash collector picks up. Well, this system, and this is what they do, they pull out that food waste. It goes into that digester, and in that digester, we convert that to renewable natural gas. And that renewable natural gas is injected after it's cleaned, according to natural gas standards, into the local natural gas lines. It's not bottled, it's injected into the gas lines. Or we use it to produce more electric generation. Either or. So, and by the way, we also capture the carbon, CO2, which is greenhouse gases that everybody talks about, that we breathe out. That's CO2. We capture all that. The next item is, this is not an incinerator. I'm sorry, it isn't. This is a gasification process, as you can read up there. It utilizes a chemical reaction technology that causes, and we'll get into that detail later. It's a thermal decomposition of the material in a gasifier at 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. There is no combustion in that gasifier. It decomposes the material, and the byproduct of that material is syngas. Okay? And that syngas up there is what we form renewable natural gas. And we produce electric power with that. In this case, 45 megawatts of power. Tony, we're going to show you a quick 5-minute video of this project and give you a little bit more detail.
We don't want it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can see it from my backyard. I can see it from my backyard too.
We don't want it.
Folks, we understand you don't want it. We also have an obligation to let everyone know what this project entails. We will not interrupt you, but the public needs to hear this. I understand that, but we'll be here all night. Okay? But the reality is that we're required by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection to have a public meeting to inform the public. I understand that you're upset, but please don't interrupt us, and we will interrupt you when it's your turn.
What are you doing back, You think it's so good? They can do building in your home, build a net to your house.
Future capacity and outdated, highly polluting mass burn incinerating units, plants that don't meet tightening emission standards. These plants also generate additional waste ash, further stressing landfill. Recent closure of the Materials Innovation and Recycling Authority facility in Hartford, Connecticut, also known as MIRA, has accelerated our inability to handle our MSW within our state boundaries. This closure alone removed 2,000 tons of MSW processing capacity a day in Connecticut, and even with renewed recycling, the state's MSW processing shortfall continues to grow. This shortfall forces many municipalities to ship their trash out of state, more than 1 million tons this year alone, at increasingly higher costs and questionable future availability. The remaining 4 resource recovery facilities, located in Bridgeport, Bristol, Lisbon, and Preston, are operating at maximum capacity, but still using older, polluting technology that produces substantial amounts of harmful emissions. Their continued operation is becoming more challenging as they fail to meet more stringent proposed emission standards. This MSW crisis, due to our aging existing mass burning facilities, may force Connecticut to export a majority of their MSW to facilities outside the state. leaving the Connecticut MSW management program beyond state control and faced with ever-rising transport costs. But there is a better solution available to handle the MSW within the state to provide a positive and environmentally friendly solution to Connecticut's waste problem. It's a quiet, odor-controlled solution that combines intense recycling coupled with conversion of MSW into renewable electricity and natural gas. Not only will this approach address Connecticut's MSW crisis, it will greatly improve our environment and provide new jobs and a renewable source of electricity for residents. That solution is smart technology systems. Smart technology systems allow for replacing the in-state MSW capacity lost with the shutdown of MIRA, nearly 2,000 tons a day, recycling of 99% of metals and 98% of glass, implementation of world-class modern recycling methods within an enclosed and odor-controlled environment, ability to convert packaged food waste into renewable natural gas, utilization of gasification technology in place of waste burning technology to produce renewable electricity, and reduce landfill use as much as possible. The SMART system is the culmination of next-generation material handling systems designed to receive, sort, and reprocess MSW into recyclables, renewable gas, and renewable electricity in a quiet, enclosed, and odor-controlled environment. The SMART system doesn't just operate cleaner than the current mass burn plants do today. Even if millions of dollars were invested in bringing those older plants up to current standards, the SMART system is still the cleaner solution.
Why here? We don't have a diesel.
Here's how it works. Municipal solid waste is brought to the facility via truck. In keeping with the SMART Solutions sustainable methodology of maximizing recycling at every step, waste is first brought to the bulk handling system, or BHS. The BHS is a huge sorting facility specially designed to separate glass, metals, and other recyclable materials from the waste before any other processing occurs. This facility is designed to reduce odors and noise. In addition, the BHS also removes the organic fraction to be processed separately. After sorting and recycling, the remaining MSW is processed into refuse-derived fuel, or RDF, and it and the organic fraction are sent to their next steps. The organic fraction is sent through an enclosed odor-controlled system to an anaerobic digester, or AD. The Smart Solution AD processes the organic fraction into alternative daily cover and renewable natural gas. The carbon dioxide gas byproduct of the AD process will be captured and converted to food-grade liquid CO2 that can be used in a variety of industries. Meanwhile, the RDF enters the gasifier via enclosed conveyors. Unlike the older mass burn plants, gasification is a chemical process within a closed reactor to produce purified synthesis gas without any external emissions. This resulting gas is used as a clean fuel for a boiler to power a steam turbine generator for electricity. The Smart Technology System solution produces far less ash than the older mass burn plants. That reduced ash can be transported away via truck. The Smart Technology System solution will meet the new, more stringent emission standards and significantly reduce the emissions from Connecticut's present mass burn facilities, thus improving air quality for our residents. The Smart Technology System solution demonstrates Connecticut's environmentally sound answer to our waste problem, while better recovering the renewable value of our MSW within the state. Smart technology for Connecticut's future.
Representative here from BHS, who would be doing most of the hiring, I might add, for the facility. Would you come up and talk about the sorting system, please? Thank you.
I think you should put it in the Connecticut where you live.
What kind of job?
How about Greenwich? Go to Harvard. Google their fucking names.
All labels.
Thanks for the opportunity to hear with you guys. I understand that you have your concerns. I came from Oregon to speak with you guys tonight, so I just want to share with you. Our company is based in Eugene, Oregon. We've built I personally built dozens of these facilities all over the U.S. And so I just we've already talked a little bit about some of the technical capabilities of the equipment. And this meeting is really an explanation of the technical side of it. As far as the location of the plant, I understand your concerns about that. And that's a conversation for probably different people. We're technical people, so we're here to talk about the equipment. And so, since we're here, I'd just like to tell you a little bit about it. And you've seen some a few clips there. And one of the things I love about the sortation equipment, and that's kind of the key characteristic to take away from this part of the system, is the separation capability. So your solid waste, which is going somewhere right now, most likely just dumped into a landfill or gone to an incinerator somewhere. It's sitting there and it's producing natural. We've already talked about that. I don't need to explain that again. So what this equipment does is it sorts everything into its highest and best use. And we're looking for things that have commercial value, things that have a high caloric potential for energy production, things that have a high biological potential for methane. We're actually building an exact facility right like this in Eugene, Oregon, right in our backyard, and we're very happy to have it. So anyway, the commercial value, there are certain items like metals, aluminum, that sort of thing, which can be separated out and captured. There's high caloric value, high BTU value items that are in your waste right now that can be captured out and put to their highest and best use. And the biological process is an interesting one because the food waste, the green waste, part of the MSW has always been a bit of a challenge for waste processing. So you take it to a landfill, it goes in there, and it decomposes naturally over time. Everybody understands that. We're all gardeners, we have compost bins, we understand that. You might as well just go to the AD slide now, Tony, and we'll just talk a little bit about the anaerobic digestion side. So instead of doing that and just releasing that into the atmosphere, what we're doing is we're going to take what happens naturally, the natural biological process that happens in decomposition, and we're going to control that and accelerate it, and it'll be, we'll capture both the methane and the CO2 and create two products. One is the renewable natural gas, and the other is the CO2. And so those are, I just did a little bit of a search before I came out, and you double check me on this, but we're expecting that this just from the natural gas portion of this is going to generate about 160 million or 160,000 million BTUs, or you can see the cubic feet of natural gas. And from what I could tell, a standard 3-bedroom house here in Connecticut consumes, if it's an older house, it'll consume about 160,000 BTUs of gas to heat that for a year. If it's a newer home and a little bit more efficient, it'll burn about 100,000 BTUs per year to heat it. And so the natural gas that's produced by just collecting and processing this will heat anywhere between 1,000 and 1,600 homes in the area, just from what we're capturing and processing here. So there's a benefit in that. And besides, it's not just falling into the landfill and getting released. So anyway, that's what that's that portion of it. Let me just give you a few numbers, because it's always interesting to have numbers. The ultimate daily cover, that's at the landfill. Maybe just a quick explanation of what that is, if you're curious. The natural landfilling process is you haul your garbage in. It's like a garbage sandwich. You put the trash in, you cover it with soil, and then you put another layer, and it goes back and forth like that. This material is used at the landfill, and it's used for the daily cover. And so you're not using the natural soils. So it's an amendment to that. So that's a benefit there. There's about 52,000 tons per year that we're estimating for that. We're estimating about 6,100 tons of CO2 capture. And so that's what would normally just be vented or off-gassed into the atmosphere. There's going to be cleanly and controlled and completely enclosed capture of that. So anyway, thank you for your time, really, and for letting me tell you a little bit about our process. I'm always impressed when I go to these sites and we build these plants, and you go to the front end and you see a big pile of the material in the front end. You go to the back and it's just sorted out in just really clean, everything captured. So
you said everything would be inside. You're saying it's outside.
it's not.
You just contradicted yourself.
You go to the back end of the plant and everything is in its bunkers, all captured cleanly. And it's pretty impressive. So thank you very much.
He says it's outside. My name's Warren St. Jean. We don't want to sit here and go through everybody and listen to all the BS. We want questions and answers.
Yep.
And if it's such a good idea, put it in your backyard. You gotta believe
So we have representatives from the Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection in the audience tonight. We're doing this as part of our requirements for our permitting. Let us finish. I understand you get it, but let us finish. We'll move more quickly, but we do need to go through the other issues: traffic, noise, air emissions. Please let us finish.
Rats, I love the rats.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me all right? My name is Dave Sullivan. I'm with SLR Consulting. I manage the transportation planning group for SLR. So I'd like to give you just a few comments on the traffic study we conducted. The traffic study we conducted had a significant study area. We analyzed 14 intersections, including the site driveway. And the 14 intersections were from interchange 32 along Route 14, all the way down Route 12 to Route 14A and back to the interchange. And when we do a traffic impact study, I won't go through the whole process, but the word impact comes from change in levels of service. So it's like school grades. If you get a C, it's acceptable. If you get a B, it's better. What we found when we analyzed this with the projections that were very detailed, that none of the levels of service at any of the analysis intersections would change.
Bullshit. What about the new warehouse? On 14. The super warehouse. What about that one? Did you take that into consideration? You're full of shit.
We did take that into consideration.
I am disrespectful.
We did take that into consideration.
Yeah,
as a matter of fact. And I'll get into that in a second. Some of the operational features that we'd just like to point out in addition to the results of the traffic study was that, you know, I know trucks are something that's been discussed. We did our projections based on real quantities in and out, size of trucks conservatively, and on a daily basis, we expect coming from the site to the south to interchange 29 will be about 85 round trips of trucks. Going to the north will be about 45 trips. Now to put that in perspective, there's a total of about 6,400 vehicles per day on this section of Route 12. 700 of those 6,400 are trucks. So we're adding 85 times 2 to the 700 trucks that are already there. So you can see that we're not
What about Amazon?
We're not changing the character of the traffic that's out there. Another thing that we're doing is limiting the hours. The hours will be limited from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. So there's a limitation, and those will be on Monday through Friday, so no activity in terms of the MSW trucks during weekends or evenings. The other feature of this particular project is the location. So we're really able to limit truck traffic and the amount of truck traffic and vehicular traffic, but primarily truck traffic that's going to infiltrate any local road. So it comes out, it's on State Highway Route 12, it intersects with another State Highway 14 or 14A, and is on the interstate system. So it's located at a very good location for this type of. Other features of the traffic characteristics is the design of the driveway. It's been enhanced, and the reason you want good driveway geometry and ample radii is so that the trucks could come and the cars could come in and out of the driveway with the least bit of disturbance to the traffic that's already on the road. And lastly, we improved the sight lines. The requirements for site distances based on DOT standards is based on the travel speeds, not the posted speed limit. So we evaluated we determined what the prevailing speeds were, or 85th percentile speeds, and we're providing adequate sight distances for the largest and slowest of vehicles. Next slide. The last thing I'll talk about
Look at my house right there. Look at nice.
Is the location of the site. You'll see down on the bottom is where the smart.
I can go there and point my house. Next to
what this is pointing out is once you come out of the driveway into Route 12, our traffic will be going to interchange 32 or interchange 29. The only traffic that will be mixing with is at the interchange, which would be the U-line traffic. Now, the U-line traffic is almost all exclusively going to exit 29. There's only a handful of truck trips from U-line that would pass that interchange and mix with our traffic. It's important to point out, U-line is really a different beast from this in terms of traffic. The amount of trucks they're generating is 3 times the amount of traffic that Amazon, once it comes online, will be using the interchange even further south, so we won't be mixing with that traffic and those trucks. Now, I point out something mentioned, if we're accounting for it, when we do these analyses,
hey, can I
we
see
have
the
to
map
put these
to point my
developments
house?
that are approved into our background conditions, which we did
right
in
there.
this particular
Look.
case. So that gives you some perspective of where the site sits, and where we have done our analysis, and again, to reiterate, the levels of service will not be impacted from what you feel today.
People are so rich, why don't you just buy Plainfield and buy us all out?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, buy us all out.
Talk a little bit about the solid waste that will be coming into the facility and the things that won't be allowed in the facility. Okay? So, man, the way from PRC.
I apologize, I'm shorter than everybody else. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, you've heard a lot about the process today. What I'm just going to talk about a little bit is the type of waste that the facility will be taking and how it will be inspected and monitored to ensure that it is limited to the materials that we can use here for recycling or that will be going on for processing within the anaerobic digester. So this facility is designed and will be permitted only to accept municipal solid waste from residential or from commercial facilities. So the commercial facilities would be things like restaurants and stores. We're not talking any industrial materials at all.
He said tires and everything, and now you're contradicting him.
So I'm going to talk a little bit more. SMART will have enforceable contracts with our haulers. So this is not a facility that's going to be open to the general public. This is not going to be so that people can bring their trash on a daily basis. This is strictly for larger haul trucks that allows them to actually monitor those loads and have agreements with the haulers, and if we see materials coming in, they can turn them away, and they can also pull things out. Waste loads will be inspected upon arrival. So when trucks come in, they will go to the tipping floor. They will provide information to the attendant as they cross the scales, so we know what the truck is and where it came from. That also allows for us to provide additional educational information to them if we start to see waste loads come in that have any material that's unacceptable. Those loads are inspected as they're tipped onto the floor, and they're also inspected more closely on a routine basis so that we can pull materials out, including recyclables. So, as you mentioned, we do understand that there may be incidental waste because homeowners do not always throw away only the things that are allowable in their trash. It does happen from time to time. As you saw, our process allows for us to handle the waste numerous times, both mechanically and manually. So we can pull materials out that are not beneficial to the process and make sure they are disposed of appropriately.
Show pictures of what you want to build. Show pictures of what you built. And what the shit yards look like behind them.
So the materials that are pulled out are individually managed. They are stored separately, they are under lock, and they will be hauled off by licensed haulers to make sure that they go to licensed and permitted facilities as they're supposed to do. Materials that are not allowed here that we understand may come through. So tires, yes, we may from time to time see a tire end up in the load because somebody threw it out. We understand things like batteries may show up from time to time. Again, we can pull that out of this process and remove it and have it sent off for either tire recycling or for battery recycling before it enters the process. So those materials, once they have been pulled out, like I said, will be stored individually and sent away. And there are materials that are not allowed into this facility. So those materials would be things like wastewater treatment plant sludges, any hazardous waste, any industrial waste. So as I said, we take commercial but not industrial. Anything that is a processed waste will not be allowed into the facility. They will be turned away if they end up showing up at our gate. And liquid waste will not be allowed. Thank you.
Showing pictures of
Thank you, Amanda. Appreciate it.
Show one that's been built already. I'll put
Talk a little bit about the odor. Odor is a major issue, as you all know. And that's one of the reasons why the European facilities that we've looked at, they're totally closed. They're,
We're not in Europe.
from the time the trucks go inside the building, and all the trucks coming to the building, if the trucks are not enclosed, they are not let through the gates of the building. We've actually seen this. We've actually seen this. And it's the same thing, the same methodology that we're going to be using, okay? And the buildings, people have asked, well, how do you keep the odor in the buildings? The buildings are kept under a negative pressure and sexualized. And biofilters and air changes in the buildings themselves is what keeps the odors in the buildings. It's a phenomenal thing to see. You can walk around those buildings and you smell nothing. You literally smell nothing.
You smell bullshit.
And so from those two processes, control of the delivery of the vehicles to the gate, and from the gate to the inside, and the conveyors too. All their conveyors are totally enclosed. So the material coming from the sorting buildings to the gasifier, totally enclosed. There's no trash whatsoever on their sites. You want to take a trip to Finland?
You take my plane ticket and I'll go.
Our next discussion will be
Touch on noise.
air
Odor. Not touch on noise.
Traffic.
Please speak about the noise. Please speak about the noise. You need to touch on that.
Oh, I apologize. Noise. We have to make what we call the nighttime and daytime decibel levels at the property boundaries. So luckily, with this technology to keep odors in, the building construction allows the noise for the mechanical processes in the buildings. We're well below any of the noise requirements for the state of Connecticut.
How many decibels?
It's 51 and 61.
How about the turbines that one shift more?
51, excuse me, it's, the question was asked, I'll answer this question, even though it's not that time. It's 51 decibel levels at the property boundaries, that's the state of Connecticut's requirements, during the nighttime. And it's 61 decibel levels during the daytime. We have no problem, we're well below those levels, because everything is enclosed. So I'll answer that question.
It's not perimeter of the facility or conservation land.
So we can move on now to air emissions. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Bob Fraser. I'm a combustion engineer and an air permitting specialist from TRC in Windsor, Connecticut. I work for SMART, and my principal job with this project has been to prepare the air permit application, which has been submitted to the Connecticut DEP. No facility can be built without an air permit to construct. So I heard somebody say we have no say. Well, yes, you do. That's the first place you have a say. This air permit application is some 400 pages long. There's a lot in it, a lot of detail. We welcome you to get it, review it, issue your questions and comments on it. I'll be here tonight to answer those that I can. But SMART has asked me to summarize those 400 pages in about 5 minutes. And so I can only have the time really to explain how the process works, how it avoids air emissions and controls air emissions both, and how it compares to existing facilities in the state. So, if we could go back to that first slide, please. This is the combination of a number of technologies in series all working together to minimize air emissions. So in the sorting plant or the separation plant, we are removing things that can be recycled and returned to the value chain. Glass, metals, e-waste, things like that. These things are thrown out in people's trash because we don't do a lot of sorting in the United States, actually, at our home. We don't have 7 bins where we put different things, which, by the way, they do that in the island of Majorca because they have no waste disposal capability at all. So if we don't want to do that, we just put it in the barrel, they come pick it up, they bring it to here, and we have a plant to sort it centrally. So we're removing all of those things that otherwise would be being incinerated in one of the existing plants or sent to a landfill to be buried and rot. That just doesn't make sense in the new circular economy. Then after that, we've got a more refined organic stream, which we refer to as RDF, or refuse-derived fuel. In the EU, RDF is a commodity. It's sold as fuel to a number of people. It's not done at the facility. But this RDF is a more concentrated stream of organics to be destroyed. And we take a bunch of that and divert it to the anaerobic digester that we've already talked about. And that anaerobic digester converts it, reformulates it into actual natural gas. That natural gas is used to backfeed the pipeline in Connecticut. You've all heard about shortages, natural gas shortages. They won't build a new pipeline. We can backfeed the pipeline in Plainfield and make available more gas for people who want to need it. At the same time, that digester plant is removing the CO2. The anaerobic digester makes CO2. That's being liquefied, reformulated, and sold as a byproduct to somebody who needs it, like food-grade CO2 or other uses. So that we're saving that much amount of CO2 from going out of stack.
How big is this pipeline you're talking about? How big of it? How many?
And questions will be later, please, but I will try to answer that. So then the remaining RDF goes to the two gasifiers. These are CFB gasifiers. They're dedicated units. What they do is they heat the material in the absence of oxygen. If they're not combusting it, but the heat of pyrolysis is the technical term, causes that material, the long chain molecules that make up the trash to begin with, are being broken down into smaller molecules. The solid molecules are long chain, that's why they're solids in the trash. Gaseous molecules are short little ones like natural gas, which is CH4 primarily. This synthetic gas that we're going to produce is made up of hydrogen and CO, carbon monoxide, which is flammable, and CH4, and then it has some nitrogen in it, which comes from the air, of course. Water, CO2 is in it as well. And that causes it to become a low BTU gas. It's not natural gas, it's low BTU synthetic gas. But all of the constituents of that syngas are also in natural gas, just in different proportions. So we then take that syngas, which is now a fuel. It's no longer waste. Now it's a useful fuel. And we take that syngas and we clean it. So we put it through a very extensive filtration system to get out any dust, any particles that are in that. And it's very, very efficient. We take the clean syngas then and put it into a thermal oxidizer, which is connected to a boiler to recover heat.
We know what the hell you're
Thermal oxidizers are used extensively to control VOC, CO, certain pollutants like that can be further oxidized. And this is a special one. It's 100 feet tall and it has a 2-second residence time at 1600 degrees F, which is designed to fully destroy those molecules back down into water and CO2. And by the way, that temperature is a much better temperature for combustion than what's going on in the incineration fleet in Connecticut. This is a cooler burn and a longer burn, and it avoids the formation of a lot of the NOx that the others emit, and it avoids the formation of things like
how many cooling towers you gonna build?
I'm going to keep going, and so then we're in a heat recovery boiler. We're going to complete combustion of that syngas, and we're going to extract heat to make steam, to make electricity to put back into the grid. Renewable energy. Finally, we have an extensive polishing air pollution control system on the back end to make sure anything that gets through, whether it's things like mercury or acid gases or sulfur products, it's a very extensive, it's all in the air application, it's all fully explained as beyond backed. There's a full section in there about that, as well as the actual emissions, the level of emissions that may be emitted. The facility will be permitted and limited in terms of what it can emit by DEP. So I'd ask you to go on the website, take a look at the air permit application. I just wanted to explain to you, this is not your grandfather's mass burn facility in Connecticut. It's a completely different technology. Yes, Smart had to go to Finland to find an example. They're running all the time and running very well in Finland doing this exact process.
Compared to today's emissions levels, it is higher or lower than today?
Oh,
that's higher, right, sir?
During the questions, I'll address these slides, please. It's up there on one of the boards, but it's much less than anything that's currently operating in Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We have one more category, then you can have all your answers and questions and answers. I want to talk about water, because I know water and aquifers are one of your major concerns. I would like to bring up Scott Bristol from SLR. He's our water consultant. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. We've heard a lot of information tonight about traffic, air quality, municipal solid waste. I'm sorry.
Speak directly to the mic.
So I'm going to talk about surface water and groundwater throughout the area. So some background. Most plants like this, recycling and generation facilities, can use somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million gallons of water a day. Then they discharge the water either back to a surface water or a stream or something like that. That puts significant demands on natural resources, obviously. As we've heard tonight, this isn't one of those plants. In fact, this plant uses very, very little water. So it's designed that way to operate without the need for large quantities of water. So if you don't have large quantities of water coming in, you don't need to discharge large quantities of water. So I'll say that slightly differently. We'll not be pumping any water from any surface water body, including the Quinebaug River. We will not be discharging any MSW, municipal solid wastewater, to any surface water body. There will be domestic sewage from the bathrooms in the facility and some boiler water that will be pumped to the Plainfield sewer plant. We will not have any septic fields or leach fields. When it comes to storm water, we are a fully enclosed system. The MSW, municipal solid waste, will not be exposed to precipitation. So, when it comes to surface water, we will not affect the quantity or quality of the lakes, streams, Quinebaug River. So if you look at the slide real fast, the orange area shows the delineated by USGS, DEP, and others, surface water drainage area. That is a local drainage area. It drains along Sugar Brook. So all the water within the orange line drains towards the Moosic River. Okay? It drains towards the Moosic River and then into the Quinebaug. So you see the plant is located right in the middle. So the water flows inward toward the plant and then northward. That's all the surface water. So every drop of rain that falls in that area drains northward. When it comes to groundwater, it's much the same. We will not be pumping any groundwater. We will not be discharging any wastewater to the groundwater. No anaerobic digester wastewater will be discharged to groundwater. The plant will use a relatively small amount of water that will be supplied by the Connecticut Water Company. And it will come through an interconnection between the Gallup and the Crystal water system. So, of note, we are not located in the designated, state designated, local designated aquifer protection area. That is shown in the red area. So that's the northern extent of the aquifer protection area is about Cemetery Road area. So similar to the orange area, where everything drains within that boundary, it drains northward. In the aquifer protection area, that is the zone of contribution to the Gallup wells. So the water supply wells operated by Connecticut Water Company. Those wells are located that way, about a quarter mile, I guess, the other side of the Inter-Royal Superfund site. So all the water within the red area drains to those wells. That is well outside of our area. Again, it's south of Cemetery Road. All the water within the drainage basin where we are drains inward and then northward along Sugar Brook. Thank you.
Question, how many test wells have you done already to see where the water goes?
Thank you, Scott. So part of the purpose behind the Q&A, and we're there now, is so that we can get everything recorded so that if we don't have answers here tonight, we can get you those answers. What I would ask for everybody who wants to have a question answered or wants to make a comment or wants to say what they feel about this project, I'd ask that you kind of line up here, speak into the mic because we're recording it, be careful of the cables. We'll go one at a time for 3 minutes at a time. And when And if you have more to say after your 3 minutes are up, just get back in line and we will keep doing that. But I want to give everybody a chance to say what they want to say. So thank you very much. Sir, go ahead.
My name's Henry Cristaldi. I live at 101 Lovers Lane, Plainfield, Connecticut. I have a question about this natural gas. How is that going to go about? We don't have any, what size mains going to go in up there? For the natural gas. You guys are going to have to dig up all of Route 12 to put all new gas mains in. The other thing is, you're saying that the aquifers are going to be affected. If you're going to have 100 and something trucks come in a day, one hydraulic tank on a truck can hold anywhere from 75 to 150 gallons of hydraulic fluid. Are they going to be all environmentally safe? If a truck gets into an accident, the tank ruptures, and he's going across our aquifer, who's going to answer for that?
Our health bill.
Exactly. Thank you. You people take nothing into consideration for your pocketbooks and nothing into consideration for the families that have lived there for hundreds of years. Go build somewhere else.
The answer to the first question on the natural gas, the discussions with the Eversource Gas Company, they are willing to basically extend their gas line to our site so we can interject the natural gas into the line.
That's not an answer. It's a question.
Who's going to pay for this? Our tax dollars or your pocketbook?
It's actually, it would be paid for by the gas company.
That's bullshit. It all comes down to the question of the long run.
Eversource is going to make this pay.
Love the hydraulics?
Scott Bristol, could you
Even diesel stuff.
So like any facility, this will have a spill plan, right? You have to have a spill plan, some sort of contingency plan to respond to spills.
I cannot hear you in the back.
Okay?
No, his voice is on because he can't tell that.
All right. So just like the highway, any road, if there's a spill, it's typically by the fire department, DEP emergency response. Okay. Now, you mentioned the aquifer. What if it goes through the aquifer? Okay. So the aquifer encompasses most of Central Village. Yes.
We live on Lovers Lane.
Right.
It's right on our wells are there.
The mapped aquifer area, which is the regulated area, which is in the red zone on the figure. Yep. That is regulated by DEP. It's regulated locally, technically. There are certain activities that can and can't occur within that area. Okay. There are obviously a lot of sources of contamination within the mapped aquifer protection area. One is the Incinerator site, right across the street. They just got something like $6 million to clean up. That has had no impact on the Gallup wells to date. The fire was 20-something years ago, I believe.
Look how many people die of cancer from that no sense. Do your homework, buddy.
Sir, go ahead.
I've got basically three questions. The first one has to do with any plans for improvements in the technology. Are there, the way the plan is designed now, it's taking advantage of some of the newer technologies that are used by Japan and Finland and others. Are there any forthcoming changes that you expect to see in the next 5 to 10 years, or anything that you think is going to impact this process and improve it? That's one. And the other concern I have is in this current regulation environment that we're seeing now federally is not one that gives me confidence. And the regulations that you're designing and building this thing under, I'm very, very nervous about enforcement. And is there any way, I'm not sure this is a question you can really answer, but my concern is those regulations, how is enforcement really going about with that? And the third question is, how does this plant actually make money? Or and where are the funds coming in, going out, and how does that impact, let's say, normal business in Plainfield? You mentioned that there's jobs, but there's not that many jobs, but a few. And there's also some tax dollars that are going to be added to the funds that Plainfield gets from their population as well. How does the plant actually make money?
Thank you, sir. I can answer the first question about technology. The facility is only currently, to be honest with you, 30% design. We're required to design up to that point just to get to where we are today for informational purposes and permitting purposes. Along the way of doing that, dealing with our manufacturers from Finland and VHS, who's, I should say, located here in the U.S., in Washington State, we have found that, and I'll give you an example of this, in the sorting facility, by adding 5 robotic and stations and laser optics, we can pull out additional recyclable materials. That was an option that came to light just recently with AI technology. They're doing this at one of their other facilities in Minnesota. We hadn't looked at that before. They brought it to our attention. So to answer your question, yes, as it evolves, it's going to be designed for, and it won't change the design, but it'll add to the design, okay? As far as the technology growing in the future, we believe that, the separation of the materials, and by the way, why is that so important? That's what keeps the emission levels as low as they are. These emission levels, as Mr. Fraser from TRC will tell you, they're lower than fossil fuel natural gas, which is almost an incredible feat to do, okay? And as far as the enforcement levels, we are lower than the current standards. Not only that, but I think, Bob, you want to comment a little bit about enforcement of emissions levels today and where we are and what you tried to accomplish up here in your discussion.
Yes, thank you. First thing I want to say is the Clean Air Act and the Clean Air Act amendments of 1990 were legislated by Congress. They are the law of the land. President Trump may be looking at things like the Green New Scam, and I don't believe in CO2 and things like that. He cannot overturn the Clean Air Act. The Clean Air Act ensures clean and healthy air quality for all. Secondly, the Connecticut DEEP is very stringent in their own regulations. The state regulations always trump federal regulations. They're not a part of it. And the state of Connecticut is very aggressive in terms of its enforcement, especially on plants like this, large facilities that bring trash. And so this is not something that's going to be turned around by the Trump EPA. In fact, the emissions we're proposing to meet were proposed under the Biden administration. And the Trump administration put it under reconsideration. It's current, those rules are presently under reconsideration by the Trump administration, but we're proposing to meet them now.
Thank you, Bob. As far as your third question, sir, on economics, I'd like Bill Corwell, the manager of SMART, to discuss those.
The question is, how do you make money? What's the plan? Historically, Connecticut has been, the state of Connecticut has been extremely supportive of development of waste processing systems. In the late 1980s, they developed the Resource Recovery Authority methodology, where they applied bonding funds and electric offtake agreements to new facilities, which we're all familiar with, which at the time were built in order to stop landfilling of garbage. And the reason they did that is clearly stated in the statute, that it was environmentally bad for the people of Connecticut to continue landfilling garbage. I think when I was a kid, they used to call them garbage dumps. So they implemented the Resource Recovery Authority methodology. This is not, one of the problems with the Resource Recovery Authority methodology is that it didn't make any plans for developmental improvements of existing plants so that you could get new technologies implemented. Nobody has a problem redoing and fixing up the sewage treatment plants that we have around the state. It's common sense. You have to take care of those environmental issues. The same should be applicable to the waste processing system. Currently, there have been, over the last 2 years, there's been numerous discussions about development of a Connecticut Waste Authority system. The Connecticut Waste Authority system will follow the funding, some of the funding mechanisms of the resource recovery. They will provide bonding to entities that would be created under the Connecticut Waste Authority system. Our technology is designed to do the best possible job in handling municipal solid waste processing that exists anywhere in the United States. We are waiting for, while we move forward with our permitting, we anticipate that the state will evolve the Connecticut Waste Authority system in such a way that they will issue some kind of a request for proposal that we can bid to and have our project built. In the absence of the state stepping up to the plate and putting an intelligent method.
We gotta move this along. Come on now. We got a lot of people in line.
Then the thing that has to happen is.
You said 3 minutes. These people are waiting in line.
Answering your question and you're interrupting, please give me a few minutes. The final answer is, if the state doesn't step up, the price of processing municipal solid waste is going to shoot through the roof, and as a result, we will be able to do this as a private development.
That didn't answer where the profit's coming from.
He asked you, huh?
He didn't answer the question.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Sorry. Oh yeah, we got another short person after me, so this is efficient. Okay, thanks. So my name's Jessie, and I just wanted to say I'm an engineer. I work in renewable industries professionally, and I have been for 8 years. I've been to waste to energy sites myself. I've been to a lot of different types of plants all over the country, and I work on a global industry outside of the world. So I have a lot of respect for what you guys mentioned about the technologies in Finland and Japan. This is not Finland and Japan. This is the US. Unfortunately. So with that, I just wanted to mention, I know that you guys made some really great points throughout your presentation already, including, you know, that this is a slightly greener technology in theory and on paper. The pictures look fabulous, the design schematics look great. But having been to facilities like this myself, this is a theory, this isn't reality. And I thought that the video that you showed was very interesting in that it didn't really show any pictures of the outside of the plant. Which, you know, do you have those pictures? Can you provide pictures, not of a day where they just cleaned, but a real life video picture of that to show the waste that is inevitably going to end up outside of the plant, no matter how well we try to contain it in the US. We just aren't there yet. We don't have that mindset, we don't have that power, and the site that you guys are providing and considering putting the site in is right in the middle of town. Even though that you guys mentioned that the aquifer won't be directly within, you know, reach for the boundaries of this site, There is no stopping the waste from hundreds of trucks a day, thousands, millions of pounds of garbage from getting into the water, the aquifer, our town. That's going to affect cancer rates, that's going to affect drinking water, that's going to affect groundwater. My uncle himself works as a director for remediation at Word and Current. He's got 15 patents for groundwater remediation. I know how much this costs. I'm aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this is a question to you guys, that the average tax rate for at least the first couple of years is about $1.6 million given to the town of Plainfield. That is not going to offset the cost of living in this town, of all of our property values going down by an average of 6%. That's a median value, according to studies of this site. That's not going to offset the potential for a cancer cluster 10, 20, 30 years down the road, and a lot of you sitting at this table are already going to be deceased, unfortunately. So, tell me how that makes sense. As an engineer myself, this is a great idea, and I really appreciate all of you coming down and trying your best to give us an overview of the technology, especially the gentleman who came all the way from Oregon for this. Sorry you had to sit through this town meeting. But the reality, and all of you engineers know better than this, you all know that this is not the reality. The reality is going to be that this impacts everyone here. This is going to impact our children, our grandchildren, our drinking water. It's going to cost the state of Connecticut a lot more than you guys are saying. I have a full cost benefit analysis that I have if you guys want to see it. I'm happy to discuss separately through emails. This isn't the crowd for that. And I don't have more than a few minutes. But
you can use my 3 minutes.
I just want to round out by saying, Bill Corvo, you mentioned that you will take our comments seriously. If that's true, you will not build in the location that you've chosen. Hundreds of people have come out to say tonight, with full parking lots and a full building, there's not enough seats. You've circumvented our local government and targeted land that includes close to the town's aquifer and will undoubtedly affect it. You've chosen a small town to take advantage with a lower population and average incomes for a reason, because you think the $1.6 million in taxes that won't offset the cost to the people that live here will be enough. That free garbage will be enough. You guys are not going to increase or decrease our cost of power. You're not going to decrease our cost in natural gases. Great, give us a natural gas pipeline, more natural gas, wow. The cost is not going to go down, and we know that the state will not charge us less. It has not been in the proposal to actually save us money. Tops is $500 per household, per trash pickup. I've done the math, that doesn't offset the costs of all of these issues that I've got. Again, happy to discuss. Why not build in an area where they already have one of these plants? Why not build where all the trash is coming from? Why come to a small town with a lot of nature, with species that are in danger, that are protected species in the town of Connecticut? Why spend thousands of dollars to take trucks from a city in Connecticut, bring it to a pristine, nice, natural area, and risk the health of these natural entities and the people that live here? Why not go to Dublin where there's nobody living here? Please, you said that Europe is far ahead of us, and that's true. And like I said, this is not Europe, this is not Japan, this is the US, and we do not have a history, no matter if we use the Biden administration's regulations, we do not have the history of maintaining our sites well. I've been to sites, waste to energy sites, in Connecticut, and I've seen how they're run. It does not give me a lot of confidence in that, as an engineer myself. The sheer volume of trash, traffic, open trucks, and open ash, which is known to lead to arsenic in the groundwater, is a concern as well. Those trash trucks and those ash trucks have to go somewhere. That ash is going to be in open trucks. You can't argue that. Where are you going? Even if that system that you showed us is enclosed, everything has to go somewhere. Even if it's greener than average, that has to go somewhere. And from what I understand from the town and the drawings that have been submitted and the plans that have been submitted so far, that ash is going to be in open bed trucks. If that's wrong, please correct me, but that's going to get somewhere. You can't control that. That's going to get into the area surrounding the site. You cannot control that as well as you try. Oh, here. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, no. I'm sorry, we did the same to you, and you guys told us to shut up.
Process.
Shut up! I would.
And it's part of the loading style. The set of hatches opened automatically to remove the need for the person to climb on top of the truck to manually open the hatch. This will prevent slips and falls from the top of the truck and keep in line with employee safety at our facility. The telescope is tuned down on multiple ranges to position yourself directly over the hatch of the truck and then lower it into place. The telescoping chute is vacuum sealed to eliminate dust from escaping. Then the ash is funneled through the center of the trunk, while the dust-laden air is recirculated in the trunk and collected by filters. The dust cake is then periodically pulsed from the filters back into the loadout stream till the loadout completes. Once the loadout is completed and the ash flow is stopped, the dust cake is pulsed off the filters one last time into the truck. The telescoping chute is raised, and the automatic hatch is closed, and the truck drives away.
What about the open truck, she said?
So thanks for showing that and answering the question as best as you could. Again, that's a really great diagram, and I really appreciate all the effort that's gone into this presentation. The main fact still remains that we can do our best as engineers to engineer this site and make it as environmentally friendly as possible. The truth is, unfortunately, and I really appreciate, again, all of the engineering that's gone into this. As an engineer myself, I love that you guys all seem so passionate about the engineering and the tech. So that was really great to see. But in the reality, this is a town full of nature with protected species and a town with people who came here for a reason. Connecticut's a large state. There are other locations that you can build. Why did you choose this location?
Answer that question.
Right here. Right here.
Rick will answer.
We don't want it.
I think I've heard that. That question's been asked many times. And one of the answers is, one of the questions is, people have said to me, I mentioned to you, I built a
Answer the question.
because you have the infrastructure here.
What infrastructure?
You have electrical interconnection. High voltage, 150 and 345, right next to the site. You have the Connecticut Water Company with a main line within a few miles of the site, so there's no water table. You have a natural gas line that can be brought into the site. The main issue is, for MSW,
Would you want it in your backyard?
Going north and south.
So can I ask, and that all sounds great, you know, infrastructure is important you need that for a site like this, right?
Yes.
It's critical.
And you need, excuse me, unfinished, you need 82 acres.
82, okay. So, it's cheap land, and we're a small town, and people here have, I think, a little bit less average, you know, annual salary than the rest of Connecticut. So maybe, you know, I'm sure that the cheap land is great for Connecticut. I'm sure that the $1.6 million tax offset, it sounds like a lot to a town like this, but we know that it's not. And the $500 average annual trash pickup that we'll all get per household sounds like a lot, but it won't offset the loss of the quality of life, the increase in cancer clusters should there be ground contamination, which takes decades to improve upon, which someone mentioned here that we've got experience with in this town already. And it doesn't help if, you know, kids are dying and getting sick. It doesn't help our natural wildlife situation that we've got here. So the infrastructure is great, but Connecticut's a huge state and there's a lot of infrastructure. So why this site? Okay, I appreciate that answer. I'll take that answer. All I would like to say is I would really appreciate, as a citizen of Connecticut, as an engineer myself, as a person in the renewable energy resource, that you guys reconsider the location, that you guys don't just go for the cheapest land possible and try to exploit a small town with less resources to maintain it. And to actually monitor the aquifer, as you said, is a local requirement. It's usually done more locally, which we have less resources to do, and that you consider maybe building it in a city where the trash is coming from, which will save the state money in actually moving the trash around the state, building next to an area that's already been destroyed by one of the existing trash plants, or building in Dudley where nobody lives. You know, make the infrastructure. Connecticut can afford to build the roads, they can afford to build the electric lines, they can afford to build the gas lines, but our families need to have a peace of mind. We moved here for a reason, so please consider this. Thank you.
My name is Merrill. We live on Sugar Brook Road. which is in the path of where you want to put this monstrosity. My question is, you say there's only going to add 85 trucks per day. I call bullshit. Plus, it's going to be open trucks. Yeah, the trash is open. They say enclosed. We've seen the trucks. They're open. What's going to happen to the roads with all this extra traffic? Who's going to pay for that? Our tax dollars are going to pay for the roads that need to be repaired because of all this extra traffic. Thirdly, what about our property? It's going to devalue.
That's why we're gonna pay less
Have you done
taxes.
reports showing increase in property values after installments somewhere? Have you seen any free increase in property?
Are you going to add value to our property by putting this in our backyard?
You have to answer it.
Show us those studies.
You gotta answer that question.
So I'm very familiar with power generation. I got over 40 years of power generation. So you're talking about making steam for electricity. Typically, steam to condense uses a lot of water to cool that steam down. And we're going to pay Connecticut Water to use that for cooling water. That's why most of your power plants are near a water source, use cooling towers and everything, and that water is recirculated through the main condensers. So steam is condensed back into the hot well, condensate pumps it in. It's a round loop, okay? Make it simple for everybody. So why didn't you just take a plant that's old, obsolete, like the one in Hartford that you just mentioned, tear it down, and put that site there? And you have all the interstates right there. One thing that wasn't mentioned, the traffic. We're going to be bringing, not everything's going to go to Route 12, 395. You got Windham County, Willamette. That trash is going to come from there, and it's going to come down 14 because that's a main fairway. And it's going to go right by, and that curve right there by Sugarbrook Road, there's already reported numerous deaths of the previous homeowners that the people that bought the house from talked about where they were killed. That's why I don't even have mailbox there. Because now you're going to have these damn trucks, they're going to come flying by. There's going to be accidents. I see it all the time. Plainfield Police, I've given them permission to sit at our driveway to go get them. So, power generation in this area right here, and you're not going to affect the Quinnebog River, you're not going to affect the fire line, and you're going to take it from, that costs money. I just don't see how this plant's going to be efficient. You need this is a 45 megawatt plant. You're going to need large amounts of water to cool the steam. I'm on a nuclear power submarine, and I know how much power it takes to on a reactor on that. So We're using air to cool our condensers. We have no water needs. We're using air coolers, air condensing coolers. So they're all air.
You said earlier.
Is that proven technology? Oh yes, sir. It's used in a lot of power plants.
In the United States?
In the United States, sir. I built them. Okay. The project paid for it.
Our property will pay for the roads.
No, the roads, that's a question I have to give to Bill Cole. That's a commercial question. I can answer your technical question. We got, if you look at that site has what we call 6 air-cooled cooling towers. There is no water needs, and that's why we designed what we did. We did not want to use water from any rivers or aquifers, and from the other fact was, we didn't want plumes. As you know, sir, working in power generation, you have plumes.
Yes.
And we didn't want plumes, so we're using air cool.
Why didn't you guys go to a site that's obsolete, tear it down, and build on that, which has all the infrastructure there?
One of the reasons, sir, I'll answer that question. One of the reasons, sir, a lot of those ex-sites, and I've been building those since the 1980s, and I hate to say it, a lot of them are polluted. Because they're all power sites. They're all coal sites. Okay? There was people that asked us to go back to Hartford too. Mr. Corvo can answer the question about upgrading or any tax dollars.
You gotta answer the traffic coming.
Oh, the traffic question? Steve, you want to have Dave Sullivan?
Hi, Dave Sullivan again. I think there was a couple of traffic questions. One was, can you hear me? How's that? Okay, I'll try not to fight it. Anyway, one question was, how did we come up with the number of traffic and the number of trucks? Well, it was a very detailed analysis how we did it. It was based on the capacity. It was based on the capacity.
Excuse me, I didn't ask that question.
The question I asked was, what about from the north? From Willamette?
Yes, I'll get to
That
that.
wasn't correct.
Didn't you ask how we came up with the estimates? No.
You said 395 and Route 12.
Right.
But you didn't address, because I'm going to tell you, trucks are going to come from 14 or Willamette area to bring in garbage.
The primary directives that the MSW trucks will have is not to use local roads. They will use collector roads, arterials, and where it makes sense to use the interstate. Most of the municipalities that will be doing it will be coming off of the interstate.
14 is our local road.
14 is a state highway.
It's a state highway, it's not a local road. Commercial traffic can go on 14.
Yes, it can, and it does today. And it gets to your second question, who will be maintaining it? The state maintains all of their highways, so the state will maintain this road as they do today.
Which means our tax dollars will get rolled off.
No, the state will maintain the road, whether
With our tax dollars.
We get it, you don't pay taxes!
you won't pay any more because there's trouble.
No.
The roads are being maintained today.
And wait a minute, what about depreciation of our properties because of this?
Well, that's not part of my traffic study.
Well, somebody in this board has to answer that question.
Where's the study on that? You did lots of studies that benefit you.
You gonna answer that question?
My name is Sharon Lewis, and I'm the director of the Connecticut Coalition for Economic and Environmental Justice. I'm also the chair of Connecticut Zero Waste Coalition. I'm so happy that I came after the couple that just spoke, because no community needs to have an incinerator in it. We don't want it back in Hartford. We fought for 30 years to shut it down. You have no idea how dangerous incinerators are to a community. Now, with that being said, I'd like to say a little bit about what we do. We travel all over the state of Connecticut and throughout the U.S. as well to talk to people who currently have incinerators in their community. And we take them to communities who don't have them to tell the real truth about what people live with when an incinerator is in their backyards. We provide testimony from real people who are impacted by the pollution and the other quality of life issues that we seem to not mention, mainly the health issues people endure. So the question is, why here? Let me tell you why here, all over the United States. You tend to target people of color. You tend to target people who don't make a lot of money. Because you think that we're stupid, uninformed, and that you can just control us. But times have changed. People are more educated, and as by the comments I hear in this audience, I'm sure many of you are really shocked at how intelligent people are today. I'd like to address one thing. I believe Bill Cuervo, I hope I'm not mispronouncing your name, but at one time you said that you're going to build this facility in the middle of nowhere. Do y'all live in the middle of nowhere? No! People live here. This is not the middle of nowhere. And you need to stop thinking about us as disposable. You can just put it over here Put it where you live. I've never, and I want to tell you also too, you want to see people get mad? Propose it in Greenwich. I've never seen people riot as much as Fairfield County folks. They will get on TV. I remember them calling Blumenthal all kinds of names. They won't have it.
Absolutely not.
And you won't even think about going to Fairfield County or Avon, Connecticut, or any other well-established, wealthy community. And I wonder why. Because they have the political power to stop it.
Plainfield's a dumping ground.
Exactly, we're not dumping grounds. But I want to also say that waste to energy is a false term. It's a marketing term that is used to disguise the dangers of incineration. There is insufficient capacity to produce energy from these facilities, and you all know that. But I'd like to ask questions that come about from the people that we've met. For example, people living near incinerators will tell you that their property values have tanked. Studies have been written about how people's property values have tanked. So what you have today, you will certainly lose when this plant comes to Plainfield, and we're not going to have it back in Hartford. But also another thing that's a bit controversial, we're being told that the facility's doors are closed and controlled. But if the trucks are coming in and out constantly, how exactly are you going to control the doors? How exactly are you going to control the smell, the rodents, the flies, and also the birds? Because we know that this is just an invitation for disease and disruption. At one time at the Hartford plant broke down. Do you think for 1 second that those towns stopped bringing their trash to Hartford? In fact, of 169 towns in this state, over 70 brought their trash to Hartford. Well, guess what the haulers did? They dumped it in the front yard of Mira. And guess what was attracted? The birds, the rats, the disease. It was out of control. And my understanding, it took several weeks for the plant to get operational again. And even with a brand new facility, you get a brand new car that won't start. So that doesn't guarantee that this won't stop either. I also want to talk about the jobs that you promised. Time and time again, you promise jobs. But at the end of the day, once this is built, first of all, you get temporary construction jobs. But you get permanent jobs. They're the lowest paying, most dangerous jobs in your facility, because you always bring in folks who are more qualified from other states and other areas. We know this, and just tell the truth about this. Just tell us the truth, because people who are low income, people who are hungry, they'll fall for this and be totally disappointed when none of this materializes. So another question I'd like to ask is, how many towns are you expecting to bring their trash to Plainfield? How many roads will they destroy? As somebody mentioned, the infrastructure. Because I will tell you right now, in Hartford residents pay every time a road is repaired. Hartford residents paid every time there was a fire at Mira. Hartford residents, the police, the fire, all the different taxes that Hartford that people had to pay just to pay for the damage that you've caused. And speaking of damage, you talk about taxes. Hungry towns need taxes, but are you really going to pay taxes, or are you going to pay something called a pilot, which is payment in lieu of taxes? You always make deals so that you don't pay 100% of the taxes that you're supposed to pay, but the residents think, oh, they're paying taxes, but not really. So my question is, have you made a deal like that, where you get a special tax break that you're not telling people about? So I want to say one more thing that you haven't mentioned, and that is about what's in that pollution. Incineration is the most dangerous pollution that we could ever breathe. It produces lead, arsenic, all types of dioxins, furans, all kinds of diseases that actually kill people. Mercury. People talk about asthma. Asthma is just the tip of the iceberg. There's all kinds of cancers and all kinds of other respiratory diseases that you will have as a result of just breathing in this pollution. So I will stop now and give other people a chance, but I just want to let you all know that We bring people together with people who have lived all the situations, people who have lived all the lives. We even bring people who work at different incinerators, and they'll tell you, I got the lowest paying job here. My job is to pick out the metal. My job is to pick out all those things that they claim are not in the trash. We've been to every incinerator in the state of Connecticut, and as somebody said, where's the ash gonna go? We have photographed trucks bringing ash from one incinerator to the other uncovered. Thank you.
Give me a minute. I hear you. I heard what she had to say. There's a lot of questions here. First of all, the reason that you have pilot programs.
We don't have the reason. Chad, if you made one.
Excuse
We
me.
know the reason. Did you make one?
No. Let me explain.
No, there are questions whether you made one.
Historically.
Yes or no?
Historically.
You're wasting time. Answer the question. Tell us.
We don't have a deal with anybody on the pilot program.
Right now.
We don't have a deal with anybody on the pilot program.
Not yet? Right, okay. Thank you.
Well, no, I mean, the bottom line of why the pilot programs end up being used and have been used
We don't
historically.
care about that.
Well, if you don't understand why they happen, then I
Well,
can't.
you didn't make one, right? So it doesn't apply here. Move on to the second question. Move on to the answer.
Please follow this logic. I told you on our marketing side that we were anticipating the state of Connecticut would come forward with a Connecticut Waste Authority system. That would be like the Resource Recovery Authority system. The problem with that is, especially for local communities, if you have a Resource Recovery Authority or a Waste Authority, it's a quasi-governmental entity that does not pay any taxes. So what you do is, if you have developers that put these things together, they enter into a pilot program with the towns where they're going to be located so that the towns will have some kind of substantial tax benefits. If it's transferred to a waste authority, there is no tax. So you get zero. And I don't think that's fair. I think that you have to be open book on everything. So what I've told you before was, we are trying to do this as a publicly available operation to respond to the State of Connecticut's Connecticut Waste Authority program. If we do a pilot program, that will be the only way that the town of Plainfield would get serious tax benefits, okay?
We don't want to
Can I speak now? Hi, my name is Heather Gradlin. I live on Jackson Road. Me and my husband just bought a property literally on the other side of the woods from where you want to put this terrible thing, okay? We just bought 7 acres and we have a magnificent crystal clear pond. We have tons of bald eagles. We have tons of wildlife and deer and all sorts of endangered species that live in those 7 acres of this land. We are halfway through building our house that we've been trying to build in this town with nonstop roadblocks, okay, just for permits, just to build a house for 3 years, okay? So you're talking, we've already invested, my husband works at the ass off, and we have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into our property. And this is gonna tank what our property is now going to be, okay? This is crazy to me. The wildlife, we have local beekeepers. Like, if you care at all about the environment, you will put this somewhere else, okay? We have multiple schools in the area that are going to be affected by this traffic, never mind the kids with the pollution, okay? There are 3 different schools in the area that busing, and already what we have for trucks is atrocious. We have a train that causes serious problems in this town, just a train, okay? And now you're telling us that we're gonna be gridlocked with more trucks. It's absolutely crazy, okay? You don't live here, so you don't understand what I'm saying. Or do you live here in Plainfield? Are your houses, did you build your houses or your families or your children's or your grandchildren's houses all around something like this? Because when you say it's the first and when you say it's a pilot program, that means we are the test monkeys. That means we are the ones that our health is going to be affected and our children for generations and generations. And please don't tell me that's not true and accurate. You just heard numerous very well-educated women, thank you, speaking their minds. For the past 15 years, I've been a special education advocate for the state. Okay, I work for many families, 500 families, 1,000 families in different regions in Connecticut, and for special health care needs. My son has autism. He is nonverbal. He is immunocompromised. He has been allergic to things that none of you can even fathom. He has one medication right now that can save his life because he has seizures daily. We bought this property thinking that finally we might find a place for our child to live. And now we are worried that he will have pollution every day. We wanted to build a small farm for him and teach him how to garden and have a flourishing life here. And literally, I will be able to see this plant and all of the smog right through my yard. This is absolutely atrocious. My son has had an allergy to the sun, to water. I can't imagine what this is going to do to our life, and we try to save his life every day. There are thousands and thousands of children in this area of Connecticut that have special health care needs that are immunocompromised. They have asthma, they have COPD, they have all sorts of diagnoses. And it tells me that every single one of you do not give a shit about our kids.
You won't even look at her!
It's a falling behavior that money says who gets a better life and who gets a better health than anyone else. You all should be absolutely ashamed of yourself if you put this freaking plant in my backyard.
Good evening, my name is Cynthia Jennings, and for 35 years I have fought landfills in Hartford, the trash incinerators in Hartford, and I can tell you I've worked with Sharon Lewis, who spoke earlier, worked with Dr. Mark Mitchell, that some of you all know, then I've worked with Edith Pastana, and until government came together and worked with the people in the city of Hartford, our lives were just lost. We had 70 towns plus New York City dumping garbage in our landfill. We had the highest asthma rate in the country in Hartford because of incineration. So I know that we had Dr. Mitchell, who used to be our health director, and after they quickly tried to run him out of town with the wind at his back, he never left us, he stayed there and he worked with us. So I know that every one of you have the potential to do the same thing to make sure that people don't suffer the harm that we suffered in Hartford. We had so many incidents of people dying in our city. We had a girlfriend of mine, Helen Nixon, had actually started an organization called Survivors on Sunset Street. The reason she started that organization was because every black man on Sunset Street had died from cancer but two, and the two that were left had cancer. She lost 2 husbands on that street. But I can tell you, working with Edith Pastana, having her actually come, she brought bureau chiefs to my house because they would not answer my calls. And so it's important that government and those individuals who build these facilities work with people so that we don't have this kind of the environment that we suffered for so many years. We have the highest rate of senior deaths in the state. Our seniors live sometimes 20 years, have a 20 years shorter life expectancy than people 20 miles down the road. okay? So we have to really think about, when you're talking about these people here, and the fact that they are not in a position to really control what happens without your assistance and without your support. There are so many things that can be done and so many things that have been done since we suffered. We never had this opportunity until later in life. But I can tell you that I became an environmental attorney because I couldn't find one that would work with me in Hartford.
Get it, girls, get it.
And I can tell you that when I went to school, I went to every single attorney with the plans and the requests that we had. And I stopped at everybody's office, and when it was August and I was sick, because I got cancer too, all right? It was August, I was sick, and I asked one of the attorneys whose offices I was at, I said, can I just leave these materials here and these plans and these here in your office? And he said, sure. I said, I'll come back and get them next week. And then somehow I forgot about the plans. I got sick. I was hospitalized. I had a doctor, thank God, that knew that I had 3,500 cancer markers in my system. She said more than she's ever seen before. And she was concerned about how I got that sick. We had 9 people die on the street next to me. Not get sick with cancer, die from cancer. And we still have some of the highest numbers of environmental facilities in the state, right in Hartford. So when you talk about, we come in solidarity because we know what we've been through. We definitely don't expect you to try and put it back in Hartford, because that's not going to happen. Okay? We are not going to allow something like this to continue to risk our lives. But all we're asking is that you come up with something. First of all, the question was asked, how many towns are going to dump garbage in this town? That has not necessarily been answered, but I told you 70 towns plus New York City dumped in Hartford, so maybe someone can just answer that one question. I just need a number. I don't need a conversation.
Well, it's not a number because there's no way that we could possibly identify how many towns.
So you don't know how many trucks are coming up?
The reason that I can't give you a number is there is a competitive world in the garbage business, as you as an attorney are aware. And the reason that Hartford ended up with that situation was because the people that controlled garbage forced it on Hartford and left it there and didn't act in a responsible way. We've spent the last 2 years finding the best technologies currently available with the best solutions for municipal solid waste processing. It is not the Hartford burn plant, it's not the Lisbon burn plant, it's not the Scarra burn plant. Those are junky burn plants. They've never been modernized.
This one.
And this one is a completely different idea. You heard the technician. Can I finish this, please?
I have one more question when you finish.
The short answer to your question is there's no way we can know how many towns we have, or we only know how many tons we can process. So I can't give you a town because it's controllable.
Okay, thank you. The other issue that I wanted to address is whether or not our state health department is working with this group and this organization when these technologies are developed, whether or not the health officials are actually weighing in on the facility that you plan to bring anywhere, not necessarily here, but anywhere. So do you have health officials that are working with your groups?
I apologize for pulling the mic all the way over and not tracking it. So the answer is not yet, because we're early on in the permitting process. However, as part of the requirements for the permitting process, we will be going to the DPH, we will be talking to them about the project. It's one of the things we have to do We're not there yet. We started with the air permit and the solid waste permits, but yes, we will be consulting with the DPH, which we are statutorily required to do.
All right. And I just want to say that nothing can replace the losses that we suffered in Hartford. But it certainly helped to have people absolutely working with those of us who live in Hartford to make sure that we don't get stuck with another environmental facility. But right now, we're dealing with capital area systems, and that means that we are now fighting fossil fuel gasification plant in the middle of the most intensely occupied system place in the state. We have many people that are going to be affected by the environmental risky facilities that are certainly being brought into our town and being forced on us in Hartford. So you're not by yourself out here. We are still fighting multiple numbers of facilities that are being put into our towns. And yes, you could be an environmental justice facility or an environmental justice town because not based on your race, but on your income, based on the number of people that live in here, the number of seniors. All right, so you really do need to work with government and make sure that when the final decision is done, it may end up like Hartford. A lot of people were replaced. And when I say replaced, I mean elected officials were replaced. I run for office every year, and they think, when is she going to drop dead? Never until we have justice. I thank you all for the presentation. I thank you for bringing in new technology that has to do with waste, but I also urge you to work with the residents here and make sure that those individuals that are going to be impacted by this understand what they're up against. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Carla Desjardins, and I'm a proud born and raised Plainfield girl. But I'm also here this evening because I'm your elected official. I'm an unpaid volunteer. I work for you. I'm here for you. I have no comments for the board. I find it interesting that they didn't do the most basic research in regards to what our town wants for our own conservation and development. So as chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, I participate in the Plan of Conservation and Development. And in that plan, it very clearly states that the area of Plainfield from the Trolley Trail down Black Hill to the Canterbury line is not to be developed for commercial or industrial. Now, I am very proud of the Planning and Zoning Commission board because in November of 2023, an application was filed to change this property from residential to industrial, and that application was denied. So why are we here tonight? We are here tonight because this company is going to be generating more than 1 megawatt of energy with their proposal. Under state law, any property, any project that generates more than 1 megawatt of energy is outside local control. We will not be able to make a decision on this application, but it does not mean we are without a voice, and we're going to talk about that. So what happens? State law. Who writes the state law? Our state representatives do, our state senators do. So we need to start calling and writing them. I did see Doug Dubinsky in the back of the room. I'm going to be talking to you about legislation, sir. I saw Ann Dauphiné at the beginning of the meeting. I did see her leave, but I already told her, I'm sitting down with you, Ann, because we need to write legislation to protect the Quinebaug Valley River Greenway. Plainfield is not against business and industry. Look at what we've done along the highway, Amazon, Uline. But we are still a place that you want to live. So where are you going to live if you keep developing the properties with industrial? So what do? Right? They said this is the very beginning of the process. We have a part in that process. We don't have a vote. We don't have the decision making, but we are not without the ability to fight this, and I will fight this with you. the permit process. They mentioned the air application with the DEEP. We can submit comments to that. As they go through each process, there will be ability for public to present comments. So we have that ability. When they present to the Siting Council, the Planning and Zoning Commission is already prepared to write their own letter of opposition, indicating all the reasons why we never designated this part of town to be industrially developed. It is meant for residential, agricultural, conservation, and preservation. This is a town we want to live in. So when the siting application is done, there will be meetings, there will be testimony. I'll be there. I want to bring as many of you as possible, and I so want to thank the people from Hartford who came here to support us tonight. I also found it interesting that the company started the presentation talking about money. Because we all know we just had a budget meeting Monday night. We are not a rich town. But what we lack in money, we have and we make up for in our heart and soul. So the question you ask yourself is, how much is your heart and soul? Right? How much is your heart and soul? It's priceless in my mind. As a Plainfield girl, I grew up on Desjardins Farm on Exley Road, which is in the Black Hill area. It's one of the most beautiful parts of town. And I actually was able to take Channel 3 on a little 3-hour tour of town. It wasn't that long, but it felt like it. To show them the beautiful vistas. We have places where you can stand and just look and you see nothing but wilderness. This plant will be in the middle of that wilderness. So what we are fighting for here is not just money or development or taxes. I'm willing to pay those prices to keep clean water. You can't drink money. You can't breathe money. So there are sometimes things that are much more important than money, because the long-term impact of what we do now will be with us for generations. So it's not just about us in the now, but us in the later as well. So many of you might have gotten a little flyer at the door. My phone number's on there, so please reach out and contact me. If you're looking for a sign, I'll have those too. And as we progress through this process, I will be posting information so that you can follow along. Because there are strict timelines when applications are filed and when your opposition can be filed in that application. So we have to watch those timelines, because that's how these companies win. They have attorneys that can track all the timelines for them, and we don't. And it's hard to read. Tonight in the presentation, there were lots of technical jargon and words, and I'm just like, say it straight and say it plain. What do you really mean? Instead, long words, long presentations. They want to limit us to 3 minutes, but you know, their answers definitely took more than 3 minutes. So I'm just here to say that I'm here for you. We're going to fight this. We can do it at the Siting Council. We can do it through state law with our state representatives. And I'm here for you, so I need you to be here with me too.
Swing around. You can see my hand. No, so I don't.
My family's been in business since 1940s in Plainfield, so we have pretty much a vested interest in the town. About 18 years ago, a guy came to town with a pipe dream. He was going to build an indoor NASCAR track. He didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. So my question is going to be to you. Do you have all your financing in place, and can you prove it before a shovel goes into the ground?
We are still in the process of determining the full cost.
So in other words, you don't have the money.
I would like to have the time to answer your question correctly. Okay? I listen to what you have to say. The answer is, an honest answer, which is, we're about 30% done on the engineering side. We're going through intensive permitting, and we are still calculating what the total cost of the operation is going to be. We have 2 or 3 different methodologies, which I explained to everybody before. One is we would respond to the state of Connecticut. The second is we would be able to go private and partner with large companies that have great expertise in providing municipal solid waste to be processed. So that's the logical way that we would go forward.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I understand that. But as a host town, couldn't we get a piece of the profit? Say 15%, because there's a lot of money in trash.
There is, to be honest, if you think about it.
I know you got a big investment.
No, stop for a second. Because you're saying the town, if the town wanted to participate in this, how would you do it? Okay, wait, there's an answer. If you use the Connecticut Waste Authority methodology that they use with resource recovery authorities, then what you could do as a town, you could be the founding entity of the Connecticut Waste Authority. That would mean that your board of directors for this thing would be Plainfield politicians.
Well, like I said,
it's been done already.
Like I said, we would need hard proof that the money is in place, because we got bamboozled before.
No, there's no
And that leaves a bad taste.
No, listen, I've been involved in situations with towns that helped create resource recovery authorities to help handle their waste. And that took place in Lisbon. Okay, the sponsoring town for that plant was actually Milton. So right now, if the town of Plainfield wanted to be involved and maximize their benefits and control the situation for the rest of its life, there's a possibility to do that by having you.
What is this plant life? Do you have any idea how long that plant life would be viable running?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's being designed for 50 years.
How long?
50 years.
50 years. Okay.
But to make a point, the reason I listened to what the woman from Hartford said, they were absolutely correct. Those things were designed to operate for 30 or 40 years.
Yes.
And then they went to hell in a handbasket.
Yes.
In the process, they were poisoning everybody in the community.
Yeah.
This is not that kind of a plan. If the state listens to what we're suggesting, they have to provide long-term funding to resource recovery authorities or waste authorities to be able to modernize the technology so that it always improves and it never goes behind.
I'm just going to say one more thing about Plainfield. In Zillow's new thing they came out with, Plainfield is one of 25 best towns to live in. The value in Plainfield from 2010 to 2020 went up 90% on our houses. So don't want to lose that, if you understand. You know, we worked hard to get this town where it's at.
I'm glad to listen to what you and the others have to say. That's why we're here. We want to be able to understand.
I said, I'm more worried about the money because of projects. Anybody could talk big projects. The dollar and cent, the bottom line, is the real thing.
I understand.
So you not be popular there and not be able to get the rest of the money, and you start a project and we're stuck with it.
We're not starting a project to have it.
And are you asking for a tax abatement on this deal?
No, I explained the pilot program to everybody a few minutes ago.
Okay.
The advantage is Connecticut waste authorities are quasi-public entities. They don't pay taxes.
I'm going to take you at your word now. I'm a man of my word. So.
It's a matter of public record. If you look at all of the resource recovery authorities, not one of them would have to pay taxes. They all entered into pilot agreements before they got developed.
Well, gentlemen, I wish you luck.
Thank you very much.
Hi, can you able to hear me okay? Is this better? My name is Heather Brisson. I've lived in Plainfield. I grew up in Plainfield. I've lived here. Just wondering, if you guys got turned down last year, why are you back?
lower the price of the property?
No, the question is, we were turned down last year. That was a request to examine creation of an environmental industrial park. That's exactly what it was. We were open kimono. We said, we have a couple of ideas we'd like to put before you, but if we're going to go forward with it, we need to know if the town is on board. Well, the town said, no, we don't want to have that there, all right? The value of this is that it's the siting council methodology that was mentioned by Carla DeJardi, allows us to go forward, do a public presentation like we're doing right now with everybody in Plainfield, and then go to permitting. And if we're approved in the permitting process, then we can go forward. So it's just another alternative method for doing the development.
So you were turned down last year, and now you're back again?
This is, what we asked for was a zoning change so that we could do an environmental industrial park. That was rejected, so we went to another methodology, and we've worked very hard to try and make this thing absolutely pristine. So it's the most modern technology of its time.
This town is extremely small.
Excuse me, she's asking a question.
This town is extremely small.
I know.
Each village has its own fire department. I don't know how you guys are going to be able to, how Plainfield will be able to handle anything, if anything ever happens at your plant.
That's right.
I don't know natural gas. You think our fire departments can handle an accident with natural gas?
Volunteer fire department.
Our volunteer fire department. It does not make logistical sense to take your trash to the shit end of Connecticut. We're right or closer to Rhode Island. Why would you waste that much money? Because it's convenient, because it's cheaper here. It just doesn't make any sense.
Russell's done with the land, so now they gotta dump it.
But how can you ensure the safety of the people that live here?
We have it. That's why we need to say no and fight it. It's impossible. He's not gonna care when he goes home. You can die, he won't care.
Are you able to ensure that the people in this town are safe?
No, he doesn't care.
Answer your question on the fire, that I can. The fire issue was brought up during the meeting on planning and zoning. I do know that you have a volunteer fire department. And during now we're only at 30% design, but all these facilities across the country, fire, especially today with batteries, is a major concern. Major concern. And so what we've done now, and can you take 3 minutes to look at what's going on with fire control for these type of facilities in video? Could you do that for me?
It doesn't make any sense.
We would handle.
We don't have the infrastructure to support
We would
something
handle
this
the
big.
fire. We would handle the fire.
Then you should have your own private fire department on your premises.
We would handle the fire.
Not just saying that you will pay if something
No,
happens.
we would handle the fire.
You would have your own.
We would have our own. Private design.
I can't trust that. I don't.
Okay, I'm sorry. I answered
But
your
to
question.
build here with, it doesn't make any sense.
I answered your question. We will handle the fire on our property. We've done rigorous tests. We know where the water comes from. We have supplemental fire equipment. We will handle the fire.
I guess lastly is what is the projected revenue for something like this? You said that this has been done overseas. What kind of revenue do they face? Or what kind of revenue do they get? What are you guys looking at as in revenue?
Money.
If we go to work with the state of Connecticut and they set up a Connecticut Waste Authority, the Connecticut Waste Authority is a quasi-governmental entity, so they would get the funding for it. The only thing we would do would be to do a sale of the project completed to the Connecticut Waste Authority after it gets all of its permitting from the state.
Are you saying you're not making anything off this
I
project?
didn't say I was making nothing out of it. I said we would be selling the project on a turnkey basis, which indicates that we would make a profit.
I am asking, what is this company making off of this?
What's the profit dollar amount?
Right
now.
What is the projected
Excuse me.
revenue?
In order to go to Connecticut Waste Authority, you have to submit a bid. So
If this has been built before in other places, there should be some kind of figure.
The other places that it was built was Finland, and that was a government contract. So there was no profit margin. We will have a real profit margin, otherwise we would not be doing this. So that's part of doing business. But the idea would be the entity would be owned by a quasi-governmental entity and managed by it. So we would just do a turnkey for the entity, which is how all of the other projects have been going.
I hope after this meeting you guys understand that nobody wants this built here or anywhere.
It does nothing for the Plainfield residents, absolutely nothing. You get nothing from it.
Who's have it next? Who's have it? Take it. Take advantage. Take it.
You go, man.
I haven't said anything yet. Hi, my name is Charles Rubano. I live at 91 Lovers Lane. This thing will be so close to my house. No thank you. No thank you. Okay. I don't live as close to the proposed site as some, but I live closer than others. Anyway, I'll say the same thing I said when your application for the zoning to be changed to industrial. I'll say the same thing I said then. If I knew this was on the table, if I knew this was even a possibility, sorry Plainfield, but I never would have moved to this town. So, let's see. I want to know, and no disrespect to Fairfield County, but you think you could put this in Easton or Ridgefield or Shelton or Westport or Reading or Darien or Greenwich or New Canaan or Wilton? What do you think? Would you? You don't have a prayer putting it there. Okay? So you're trying to take advantage of this town, this populace. You're trying to take advantage of this situation. Okay? You really don't have the infrastructure because you've already said, well, we'll bring this in and we'll move this and we'll do that. So the infrastructure isn't actually on site. Right? Right? If you have to build all this stuff, okay, you don't have the infrastructure. Okay? I'm a field service engineer for Bloom Energy. We build fuel cells. Okay? And I know where there's infrastructure, and I know where there's not. Okay? So, you're going to say, well, this is covered, and that's covered, and this covered, but you know what? How many people have seen a garbage truck with the cover, and the crap is still blowing on it? Yep. Right? Okay? That ash, I saw your video, when that thing pops open, what do you think? That ash is magically going to stay in the container? Okay, and, yeah, until we get, no. You're going to open that thing, and ash is going to come out. Okay? All right? So, you know, there's going to be what we could call leakage. Okay? Whether it's ash, whether it's garbage, okay? And, runoff, whatever it is, okay? And doing what I do for a living and watching your presentation, I have a fairly I don't understand in detail, but I have a high-level understanding. And I understand the lack of combustion because our fuel cells do not combust the natural gas. Okay? We produce electricity through a chemical reaction. So, in 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, when this thing has run its course, okay, and all the controls and all the enforcement and all the regulations, okay, while they're still there, they're not being adhered to. Oh, well, we did that for the first 4 weeks. Now we don't do that anymore. Oh, we did that for the first year. Now we don't do that anymore. Okay? And now, 10 or 15 years from now, you have all this crap. Okay? What are all of you going to say? You're going to say, well, it looked good on paper.
Good evening, Ian McDonald. I'm from over the border in Killingley. You know, I've got family and friends here in Plainfield. I'll say, you know, we have one of the largest power plants in the state in Killingley. You guys have had a biomass power plant here. You guys have one of, I'm not sure how many, it's not too many Superfund sites in New England. You have one of them. And so when we're talking here, it's not for Killingley, and I think probably a lot of Plainfield folks feel the same. It's not not in my backyard as much as it is enough is enough. You know, Plainfield has taken on a lot. Plainfield has industry, but there's a line that we say enough. And to the question as to why this is being built here, I can confirm, maybe this. I don't, if I'm recalling the words, I think Mr. Corber was saying when he was speaking to the Connecticut State Assembly, was something along the lines of, this is great, it's in the middle of nowhere. So, I don't think people necessarily, as Ms. Lewis was saying earlier, feel that that's where they live. And please, you know, listen to that recording. I think it's informative, your testimony to the State Assembly there. You know, one other thing that came out of that was kind of interesting was that Casella, who's a hauler, they've absorbed Willimantic waste. I think they probably serve Plainfield, I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. They're up in Killingley too. And I can't remember if it was Scara or Cavanta or Reworld. One of the incinerator companies was saying, we don't need another facility, we can make do without this. So we're getting a different, now they have a business case and motivations, but they're telling a very different story about that there's a desperate need for this thing. And so, you know, I think that's one thing that's worth keeping in mind when we look at, you know, this is gonna be, you know, this great endless source of, you know, revenue for the town. They're saying we don't need it, we can make do without it. So I think there's a business question there too. You know, it was mentioned about the pilot agreement. You know, I think maybe that is how waste is going, but for you guys to be able to, you know, pay less than all the Plainfield residents in taxes and pollute significantly is not is an issue. Other people don't pollute and have to pay a lot more taxes, and I think that's, you know, not such a cool thing. In terms of, you know, we talked about the natural gas. First of all, I don't think the pipeline's here yet, right? So that's not going to get, until there's a pipeline, and there's going to have to be a lot of construction for that, this is going to get burned. And my understanding, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that people who are living near natural gas facilities, as we do in Killingley, have higher rates of heart disease, have higher rates of asthma, have higher rates of COPD. So when we talk about, oh, it's just, you know, we're burning natural gas, even if there's some carbon capture, there's still significant pollutants from that affect, you know, public health. When we talk about, there's a question here, in terms of the RDF, you're going to be heating that up. correct? And you're not supposed to have any oxygen in that chamber. Has that worked traditionally at these facilities? That there's been no oxygen in the chamber? Because my understanding is quite often that has not been particularly successful, and very often you do get oxygen in these chambers, and you get some, yeah.
I can answer that question. This gasification process is unlike what Plainfield biomass, excuse me. This is a gasification chamber that is oxygen-free, stoichiometric, we call it, basically. The only natural gas that's used in this chamber is for startup. And the reason it's used is to bring the chamber up to a 1500 degree Fahrenheit temperature. And that's what the reactor uses. I use that word reactor, the vessel. That is what starts the chemical reaction of the MSW. Okay, so there is no incineration in the chamber.
No incineration, but you're
using the oxygen to start the process.
Okay, but you are burning natural gas through the anaerobic digestion, and then you're using some sorts of energy, whether it's from the plant.
I'm sorry, you were talking about the AD, not the gas.
Well, I'm getting to that too.
Okay.
And then you're also using some sort of energy at that RDF heating facility, and then finally you're creating this syngas, and then you're burning that, which I understand that you're scrubbing out certain things, but we saw on this, even with your presentation, it still has, you know, in places a pretty significant pollution profile. So maybe you can just answer this. We're not in Lisbon replacing the Lisbon incinerator. We're not in Preston replacing the Preston incinerator. You're going to a virgin site and building an incinerator. So is the air going to be dirtier in Plainfield near this site when you build the incinerator than it is now?
Yes, of course. Do you understand that?
Well, I just want to be clear.
No, I want to be clear too. The definition of incineration is combustion, right? Correct?
No.
That is correct.
Okay,
As an engineer,
that's combustion, but what I'm saying is when the syngas is burned, you have pollutants. Am I wrong about that?
When we have pollutants and Mr.
Yes, okay.
So can I answer that question? Can I answer that question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier, can you talk to the pollutants of the syngas versus natural gas plant? That's his question.
Is it more or less than it is today?
It is less.
Right.
We are throwing around the word pollution.
Because there is pollution, that's why we're throwing it around.
There are pollutants.
Okay.
There's not pollution. If you look
I don't think that's true, sir. I'm sorry. There is pollution. Look at the permit, the air permit that you guys are putting to deep. I said, everybody look at that air permit and then tell me there's no pollution or pollutants. You might be cutting down on PM2, you might be cutting down on some mercury, you might be doing some scrubbing, but there is pollutants from this facility. Let's not BS all the people here. Okay? If they want this tax revenue that badly, that's one thing. And they say, we'll take the pollution. But let's not pretend that there's no pollution here.
Okay.
Your own slide shows that you have some.
I can only tell you how the system works. Okay. Again, the Clean Air Act will not grant a permit to this facility if it could cause or contribute to a condition of air pollution in Connecticut or anywhere else. That's regulated by the EPA and Connecticut DEP. And it's demonstrated via air dispersion modeling, which is in that air permit application.
So there's not going to be any more pollution when you build an RDF incinerator in Plainfield.
Compared to today.
Compared to today.
Right now.
Compared to today. Well,
Or pollutants, if you prefer.
Be careful on how you answer.
There will be additional air pollutants. Those air pollutants will be dispersed into the atmosphere and will fully comply with the National
Well, we're gonna have
Institute of
more
Health,
than we have now.
national air quality standards. They will
We're gonna
not
make our air
affect
dirtier.
the health or welfare of anyone in Connecticut.
Okay, thank you. I have one final point, just being from Kelton, I think this might be helpful. You know, we have this pilot agreement, and I, hear what you're saying about how MSW might be treated, but with our pilot agreement with our power plant, that expired. And what just happened? Now we're desperate for tax revenue, Killingly. We had a bunch of position cuts, we're kind of fighting in our schools, just like anybody else, just like Plainfield. And the power plant company, which has been sold multiple times, so you guys might be all the finest human beings in the world, but we also have to contend with who you sell to and who they sell to all down the road. But the other issue there is that they have their board. I was talking to one of the firefighters in the fire district. He was saying they had their big board of lawyers, and we had our one little town attorney, and they were raking them over, and we just had a big fire in our power plant, our gas power plant last year. Okay, and it was a scary situation for a lot of firefighters. And even with that, they wouldn't add more support to the local fire department. Okay, so people aren't just making it up when they say, we don't know if we can do this. We're seeing it right now in Killingly. We're seeing less revenue in this second pilot agreement, considerably less, and they screamed bloody murder and took us to court when we tried to assess them more like other industries. So just, I'll leave it at that, but thank you.
So just for the record, I'm an engineer and I've been in the safety field for 36 years. So I mostly just have comments, I don't have any questions. So right now on the eastern part of the state, we have a trash burning plant in Preston, we have a trash burning plant in Lisbon, we have a wood waste burning plant in Plainfield. There was a tire burning plant in Sterling, which most likely contaminated the site with fly ash. And I have experience, I was in that plant several times. There's a natural gas fired plant in Dayville. There's an ash landfill in Putnam that I believe they are just expanding. And there's also a trash burning plant in Millbury, Mass. So I personally think that the eastern part of the state is already shouldering more than its fair share of this type of industry. Although, it's implied that this plant will not emit odors, most likely because the air from the separation facility will be used in the combustion air for the incinerator as it was in Hartford. The smell inside the facility will be strong and there will be vermin. I have been in trash plants. I was in the Hartford trash plant, and I can tell you I was warned to stay away from some of the conveyors so I didn't get bitten by rats. So the facilities that sort trash, such as the former plant in Hartford, and commingled sorting facilities harbor vermin such as rats. Rats can carry and spread infectious diseases. If the plant is not in operation, if the plant goes down, and they all go down, they won't be using the air in the sorting facility for combustion air in the process, so that the air will go outside of the plant. There'll be no need to have a negative pressure, and it will smell. The plant will produce at least two gases, carbon dioxide, which is an asphyxiant, and methane, which is also an asphyxiant and flammable. The oxygen-displacing gases, along with the anaerobic digester, could create serious hazards for workers at the plant. The plant would also have large sorting equipment, which is dangerous. Apparently it'll be robots or robotic, which is also very dangerous, interacting with humans. The plant would most likely need a reserve of fuel gas to keep the incinerators at a level temperature and for startups. Approximately 12,000 gallons of methane is 10,000 pounds, which is the threshold quantity of a flammable gas for inclusion in the EPA's risk management program. Unfortunately, this plant would be exempt from all of those regulations. Because it's being used as a fuel. So, you know, this.
I don't see any no's, so I think they agree with you.
So the talk of all this regulation by the EPA, that's not true on the safety side. Basically, 10,000 pounds is enough flammable material to create a large event, such as an explosion, that would damage nearby homes and require an evacuation. Also, the burning of household trash generally creates ash that is both corrosive and laden with heavy metals. This presents yet another hazard to workers in the plant and the surrounding environment. I would say that the jobs that would be created in this plant would not be safe or healthful for the workers. The eastern part of the state appears to already be shouldering more than its fair share, and the plant is not welcome in Plainfield. Thank you.
My name's Trav Harmon. I'm from Municipal. Two things. One, we looked out at the facility that you guys looked in, what was it, Finland? It's on an island, offshore, by a highway. It's dead. It's not even anywhere near populous. And quite simply, my dad used to work at Mare Island in Vallejo. If you know that place, yeah, there you go. Submarines brought them to ground. Point is, it's outside of a population base. It's dead center here. Everyone is in there. If something goes wrong over there, they open a window because there's no one around. It's literally in the middle, about half a mile off the ocean. Just wait for the breeze and it's gone. Everyone was right. COPD, asthma, all that stuff is going to stay here. Last time I checked, I didn't see any wind farms around here. We don't have that high wind. It's going to stay. And on top of that, Finland is a socialist socialist democracy. Their people pay a lot in taxes, so they can afford an incredibly robust fire department, incredibly robust environmental cleanup company. We can't. We don't have that. It's not going to happen. Now, that being said, as we all know, the old saying of the XL pipeline, some people love it, some people hate it. One of the big concerns was it was going to leak and fail. What did it do 2 months ago? Literally, it broke and leaked and it polluted. Exactly the opposite of what we said was going to happen. With the best of intentions, it can still go wrong. That's the problem. There's not enough safety nets in here. And I'm a YIMBY. Yes, in my backyard. I wouldn't mind a nuclear power plant because it's 18,000% better than coal and wood. But this is not an alternative to it. The risk is too high, the benefit's too low, and we have no means of a safety net in case things go wrong. Thank you.
But it looks good on paper.
Hello, my name is Kate Donnelly. I live in Hampton, about 10 miles down the road. I'm here because I have great concerns about the health and economic problems associated with this gasification plant. And after listening tonight, those fears have gotten much bigger, not smaller. I'm here because there are no boundaries to pollution that affects all of Eastern Connecticut and beyond. And burning trash generates more carbon dioxide than burning coal, and the consequences are highly documented that it increases rates of lead poisoning, asthma, cancers, respiratory diseases, reproductive and kidney diseases, and other chronic health problems. This will bring significant cost burdens to the people of Plainfield, as well as the rest of Eastern Connecticut, and it will lower the property values with no viable economic benefits. Reducing, reusing, recycling, composting creates far more jobs than this plant will. And it's safe and a good paying job that people can do in their own community. And I have a question. The gentleman before me talked about what happens if it fails. Who's going to pay for decommissioning? Is that in your budget, decommissioning? Who's going to pay if there's an outbreak of cancers or an outbreak of some other problems? Or it leaks. You say it doesn't leak. What if it leaks? Who's going to pay for all that? Is it in there? Is there compensation for the people that are affected who live around it? I don't see that compensation.
That's when they sell it.
And pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes. It doesn't mean it's taxes, it means instead of taxes. So you negotiate, as Ian said, you negotiate with the town and pay less than the homeowners do, or the other businesses that are in this community. It's payment in lieu of taxes. That's not good for a town. It stinks. We in Hampton have 2 state forests, and our payment in lieu of taxes has gone down and down and down and down. So it's not a good deal for anybody. If we are currently exporting energy out of Connecticut. We don't need more natural gas, so-called natural gas. And this isn't even so-called natural gas, it's synthetic gas. We don't need gas in the state of Connecticut. We export gas. And there are no pipelines going through Plainfield. So as previous people have said, pipelines will have to be built, and they are very expensive. And who pays for them? Eversource? Nah, ratepayers of Eversource. That's who pays for them. So we'll be doubly taxed to build pipelines. And if the pipelines aren't built, how the hell are you going to get the gas out? You going to truck it? Are those trucks accounted for in your list of how many trucks will be going through? The trucks for the gas? I don't think so. So I think that it's just such a bad idea. It's a bad idea for Connecticut. And I agree, it shouldn't go back to Hartford. If it really is a good, safe technology, bring it to Fairfield, bring it to Greenwich, bring it to Litchfield, and see if we can get it back on the
Good evening. My name's Becca Merson, and I live just across the river in Canterbury. We moved there to a farm there. We're really excited about getting it started up. The reason we moved there is because the siting council said yes to a cell tower 500 feet from our home in Haddamack. So here we come to Canterbury, and now look at this. We're going to be up against the siting council again. But let me just, I came up here to use my expertise. So I'm a professor at a college, and I teach environmental toxicology. There's a couple things that came up. Your first, and you've said it several times, that you're here because the permitting and other things require you to reach out to the community. You've reached out, and we've had several residents speak and ask you questions. Sometimes you answered, sometimes you didn't. Did any of what they said move any of you to consider that that property right now is a clean property? And it doesn't matter whether the EPA limits on dioxins, furans, like sulfur dioxide and such are at whatever levels. It's still going to be more than it is now. So we are families, we are community, and so you have that lovely picture over there, but you really should have had this picture. This is your proposed property, and there's stars and a couple other different symbols on there, and they represent people's homes,
Our communities, people, families.
agriculture, senior centers, schools, healthcare facilities,
Daycares.
everywhere. These people live immediately adjacent to that property. Right now, they don't breathe in some of those gases. They don't breathe in the NOx's or other things, the SO2s and the COs, and the VOCs, which I don't think half the people, no one wants to eat that. That's really, benzoylpyrene, whatever, dimethylbenzantrazine. We can like go on and on and on. The fact is that is not here now, but it will be, even if it's in such a small amount. You know, there's this idea in cancer. You know, sometimes it's a 1 hit, sometimes it's a 2 hit. You get exposed to something, a lower level. You get exposed to it again, and you're going to have some problems. So there are a couple other things I just wanted to mention. You probably are familiar with a distressed municipality, what that means. There's 169 towns, cities in Connecticut. 25 of them are listed as distressed municipalities. Plainfield is number 19. So environmental justice, that's what you're here for, right? Is that's what you have to meet. You have to meet that obligation. Two things. Number one, the EPA closed off their EJ program. You can't get into their environmental justice screener anymore because it's gone. It's gone. So you as people, like these people live here. There's farms that raise animals and food that the people eat. And you say, oh, it's only going to be a little bit. But in good conscience, can you look at this property and say, and the proximity of the people around it, the families, the community, and say, this is good for Plainfield? No, it's not. It's not smart for Plainfield. Yeah. And so we're going to be following you around to the Siting Council and anywhere else you need to go.
Hi, Art Cagney, real quick. I've read the proposal that OMG gave to the Army Corps of Engineers. Nobody tonight has mentioned the Army Corps of Engineers. I know you went through deep, but the Army Corps of Engineers approved a proposal by OMG 10 years ago that brought that property back to wildlife habitats in 9 phases, creating a large pond, which Rawson Materials or Strategic Realty, or whatever they go by, said was not suitable to build this pond, so they scrapped that. I don't even know if they're remediating the way they're supposed to, the way the Army Corps of Engineers provided in that proposal they gave. They said, okay, this is good. There's 23 wetlands areas on that property. And I think this is not a good place for this. The only question I have you reached out to the Army Corps of Engineers? Do they know that you're proposing this? That's my only question. Do they know?
I can answer that question.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I haven't answered the question.
It's a yes or no question. Do they know that you're proposing
There is
this?
no Army Corps permit, sir. I was at the P&Z meeting. That permit.
I have it in my
You do not. I'm sorry.
What is that? What is that proposal? By OMG
The Army Corps.
that they signed off on.
Can I answer the question?
You are so
Okay.
kind.
The Army Corps permit application by ONG was, they were giving ONG, I work for ONG, okay? ONG was given a permit number in 2013. That permit number expired 5 years later because none of the work that was required by the Army Corps permit to the wetlands was ever done. We didn't have to do any of the work that was required because we didn't impact wetlands. This plant does not impact wetlands.
You don't have to get mad.
I am, because
I see that. You don't have to get mad.
I tried to answer this at the P&Z meeting, and I wasn't allowed to answer the question. I'm trying to answer your question. That Army Corps permit does not exist. It expired 5 years after 2014.
Okay, thank you.
I hope they pay you enough to get that mad.
They do, don't worry. Before addressing, especially Ray, like you're passing notes back and forth like a high schooler. But before I get into my speech, I was asked to ask some questions because I don't know if you know this, but standing up in front of all of you is really intimidating. Specifically because I only see one female presenting person on your board, and I hope they're compensating you for being the only female on the board, because honestly, it looks good in pamphlets. So these questions are not for me, but they were very good questions. How will you account for the noise caused by 85 trucks, 45 trucks, and 160 trucks caused every weekday? That's 290 vehicles daily, 1,450 vehicles weekly, and up to 84,100 vehicles yearly.
Great question, Sam.
It's not mine, but it is a great question. Can anyone other than Rick answer though, because I really don't want to interact with him?
You already had to say that enough.
All right, I'm going to take that as you don't know. How did you
We
go
can
from...
get back to you on that.
No, Rick, please. I actually asked not to hear from you, much like the PNC meeting. How do you go from the initial proposed lack of noise to 51 to 61 decibels depending on the time of day? You could answer, yeah, sure.
So those are the state regulations promulgated by the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. They are 51 dBA at nighttime because the state wants it quieter at night than it does during the day so people can sleep and enjoy their homes. And Mr. Audette, Rick, did say earlier that we will be well below that 51 dBA threshold because everything is kept indoors.
No,
So that's what they're
Except for the trucks.
What about second shift workers?
Okay, he answered the question, so we'll have to accept what he gave us. Bob Fraser mentioned that if little water was used, little water waste would be released, along with the plant would use very little water. Yet, that claims that no water waste would be formed. These statements contradict each other. Will there be water waste or no water waste?
Scott Bristol, can you talk to that?
Yeah, that was me, Scott Bristol. And I don't think that was exactly what I'm sorry. That was myself that made those comments, Scott Bristol, not Bob. And I don't think that accurately characterizes what I said. What I said is that unlike other power plants and recycling facilities that use water for cooling purposes and enormous amounts of water, we don't have that. As Rick had mentioned earlier, it is an air-cooled system. Now, we're going to have bathrooms. We're going to have some boiler drain water, very small quantities. That will be pumped to the Plainfield North sewer plant.
Okay.
Yeah, pump station.
So the last question is, and actually this is probably more rhetorical, but I'll ask it. In response to many of our serious concerns, you've repeatedly said that other facilities are worse than yours, and that makes yours the better option. Are you suggesting that we should be satisfied by receiving less than what we want, or what we don't want? Why not offer us what we actually want, which is none at all? So thank you to the person who gave me those questions. And I am actually not here to ask any questions. More mine are probably rhetorical. And to provide perspective. Just to, you don't even have to raise your hands because I think everyone will know the answers. And someone's already asked one of these. How many of you have proposed this in the town, or even if you, because I don't know, okay, all of you actually live in Connecticut. In your town, how many of you have heard a proposal for this? Great, how did it go? So this technology is being used in your town?
Except for everything except for the gasification program we have.
Gasification board, okay. Just half the process. Okay, so how many of you make less or $60,000 a year? Okay. Yeah, you know what? I said you probably wouldn't answer, so it's fine. The average median salary in Connecticut is $60,000 or $63,000. We have only 5% of our town have master's degree. You described a lot of like highly technical roles. But I also want to state that I sat in a hour and a half meeting on Monday night where people came and said that they may have to leave their homes because of a raise to our taxes. They asked us yesterday, the Board of Finance, in order to make sure that people are not going to not be able to afford their taxes, for the Board of Education to cut $4,000. I don't know if you know that, but I actually didn't. Or 400,000. Sorry, 400,000. Sorry, thank you. Oof, I have a lot to say, and I just can't sit up. But mainly that's because I've been to so many meetings this week. Because I was late to this meeting because I just had to sit on the Board of Education because I'm a board member and decide between if we should replace the stair treads or if we can take them down for one more year and kids won't fall down the stairs. I had to decide on if we should cut some teacher positions. $45,000 is an entry-level teaching position in Plainfield, Connecticut. I just want that to sink in, that I just had to sit there for an hour and a half and decide whether we should cut technology from our budget, whether we could put off taking trees out so they don't fall on our buildings. I don't want to nickel and dime our budgets, and then you come in and say, oh yeah, no, we'll pay you. Like we'll pay you, or your taxes will go up and all of that. We are a healthcare desert. That means that we do not have enough healthcare to support us now. What about the cancer-causing agents, the asthma, the other things that you may say, oh, don't worry, they meet EAP guidelines or EPA guidelines. That's still more than there are right now. So there are already more cases of cancer, more cases of increased asthma. My 9-year-old already suffers. He can't even go to summer camp because he can't be outside running without having an asthma attack in the heat. So he's supposed to go to school every day. He's supposed to play outside in the summer. When you are pumping this into our environment, I have to go and make these, it's a volunteer position, and I will do it again and again, but I'm not going to stand here and say that we are not going to use that payment that you are going to give us because you are causing issues. That's all going to be taken up. We will not be able to afford our houses because, or we will be able to afford them because the prices will go so low. We won't make any more money on them. This is a bad idea. Is Doug Dubinsky still here? I know he was. Oh no, he left. Our two people who are supposed to be representing us had to go to bed at 9 p.m. I didn't get to go to bed at 9 p.m. I didn't get to tuck my son in today. I'm here listening to all of these amazing stories and people who never would have gotten up in front of 13, 14, 15, I have no idea how many there are, I didn't count. But you guys make more than the median average probably just for this meeting. So I just cannot sit here and say, this is amazing, we've had so much participation. I get it, everyone had to leave. My mom left because she can't sit in a metal chair for this long, so thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause for staying. We have people who, as Carla Desjardins said, write laws for us. And yet, Ann Dauphiné walked out that door before hearing any of our comments. She listened to their presentation, said, I have all I need to know. I didn't get to hear the presentation, but don't worry. I did a lot of research, and I could go on and on, but you heard all of that, and actually you know it, so I actually don't have to tell you, but this is not okay. We need to call Ann, call Doug. We need to have people on our side in Hartford. That is what we pay them to do, that's what we voted them to do. We need them on our side. Because I do not want to cut any more money from our town budget or from our Board of Education. We have children to protect, and this is not protecting them. Thank you, have a good night.
Good evening, my name is Jim Bowden, I live here in Plainfield. While I am a licensed engineer, professional engineer, I don't have any technical questions. I want to share a few observations here. If I'm not mistaken, everyone at this whole table here, except for one gentleman, are either paid consultants or equity partners in Smart Technology Systems. Smart Technology Systems is an LLC created by OG Industries. All right, they hired this whole team to come here today. OG Industries have been operating the gravel pit there for many years. They are the owner of the properties in question. All right, I am assuming that they just about mined out those properties. Obviously, they came to the town to present an industrial park that was turned down for rezoning. So what did? They come up with a proposal that negates the input of the town and circumvents it and goes to the state level where they feel they have more opportunity, more money, and more paid professionals, to speak on their behalf against a limited number of, of citizens of this town.
Sneaky.
So, Ms. Audette, I am talking to you because, again, this is your project. You own this property. You've made a lot of dollars. Your own website says that you're one of the largest producers of gravel products in the state. All right, millions of dollars. All right, you've already pulled your revenue and sources out. I appreciate looking for a reuse that generates income to your company. But this town, these citizens don't want this plant, and shame on you for circumventing the local control of property rights in this town.
Hi, my name's Kathy. I've lived in Plainfield since 1978, and my two boys live here and go to the high school. And I know everybody's tired. It's a late night. I definitely saw some yawns on the panel. I imagine that none of you live near here. I think if you did, people in the audience would recognize some of you because that's what kind of town we are. And I just want to say that most of the people here are tired. We've probably been working all day, like I was. I have to get up early to go to my job tomorrow, which is a social worker in the critical care unit at our local, already immensely overburdened hospital in the small little area of the state that we live in. And I would just like for people to think about, not these people, because I know they are, maybe you guys, to think about what I go through every day when I'm sitting with people in the critical care unit, their families, they're dying from COPD, they're dying from cancer, they're young, heart disease, all of these things things like this have shown to increase rates in small communities like ours. Our hospital's already overburdened. My soul is already overburdened with what I do every day at my job. And until you're in the position where that's someone that you love, or you're in a job like mine where I'm sitting with people that other people love, I don't think it's gonna hit home, and I wish it would. Because it's huge. I'm not an engineer, I'm not an environmental attorney, any of those things, but this affects so much more than money, roads, all of that, which are important to us. My kids live here. It's just immense. And I think that the price that we're gonna pay far outweighs any kind of potential benefit that may or may not come from this.
I'm Roe Bragg. I live on Blackfield, about a mile from this facility proposed. I see that you hired a high-priced lawyer farm out of, where are you, out of Harvard? Harvard. Yeah. And you think that you're going to browbeat the town, people that live in this town, because we don't make a lot of money? And this for you. We'll fight you every way we can.
That's right.
You've been very distraught by the questions that are being asked for you. Well, guess what? I'm a taxpayer of this town, and you are a businessman working in this town. You owe us a little more respect. I'm going to summarize what's happened here tonight. Bottom line, we don't want you here.
Nope.
Pure and simple. And you're, like he said, you're going to try to go to Hartford and get it through. Guess what? We'll fight you every freaking step of the way.
Hi guys. Hello. You got me?
Yep.
I'm Eric Colello. I'm a lifelong resident here in Plainfield. My parents were lifelong residents here in Plainfield. We have a lot of history here. I'm father of 3 children. I didn't get to talk to any of them in tonight. They go to our school system. I wouldn't feel right, you know, I'm kind of in the same boat as Carla here, where I wouldn't feel right if I didn't come up here and just put my name on the record here. I'm curious, is there a permit in already to the state? Has any permit already been submitted in any way, shape, or form? Any application, has the application been submitted?
You gotta ask Mr. Odette, just ask his son.
Currently, there's one application in. It's the air permit application to construct the facility. It's in front of the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection's Air Bureau right now.
Okay. And
Everybody
that-
send them an email.
And no permits have been issued.
And then, okay, thank you. If that gets approved, or after this meeting, you make decisions to go further and process further applications, correct?
I guess I'll keep the microphone for a minute, sir. The short answer is yes. There is, at a minimum, there will be a series of solid waste permits for the facility, a stormwater permit application to deep, a pretreatment permit application for the discharge that goes to your municipal sewer, and the siting council permit that was mentioned before. Those are the major permits that will be applied for.
Okay. We have your names, you've given us names, you've given us positions and roles and whatnot. Just so we're aware of who we're speaking to, does anybody at this table here have the opportunity to talk to the rest of your group and say, let's not do this here? No, you don't?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
That would be Ms. Odette.
I didn't understand. I just didn't understand the man's question. I want to understand what he's asking.
So does anybody at this table, this board that you presented to us, can they go and make a decision and say, let's not do this in Plainfield? Who are we speaking to? Does anybody have that power?
Mr. Arnett does, Mr. Prophet, right?
Excuse me, the purpose for this meeting
I understand what the purpose is.
was so that we would be able to listen to everybody here.
Yes or
Are
no
you
answer,
correct? This is what I'm asking.
please. It's a yes or
Can
no question.
I just want to ask a couple things. So, does anybody, can you say, I do not want this in Plainfield, I'm not going to do this permit here, let's find somewhere else, or scrap the project?
I cannot say that, sir. I'm the director of the Power and Energy Group.
Great point,
I report to the president of the company.
The
Tell the president of the company we don't want it.
And I have the ability to talk to him about the situation.
Are you gonna tell him no?
Okay, so you have the ability, so this doesn't have to happen if somebody says, you know what, maybe Plainfield's not right for them.
I cannot make that decision.
No, but you can talk to somebody who can.
Can you influence?
So I'm just wondering, you know, and you don't have to answer me, but I just look at like, you know, what was already said here. Have you heard our families? Have you heard our companies? Have you heard the people that are in this town? And will you take that to somebody and say, boy, these guys really like Plainfield and they like it the way it is?
Definitely will do that. Definitely.
Okay.
I'm on record.
No, thank you. I'm a believer, thank you, right? That's a good thing. Right? Thank you. That's what we do here, and know that we've been heard.
Put it in writing.
Okay. So, I know you don't make the decision, but you speak to the people who do. Correct, okay. Carla talked a lot about conservation, you guys talked about conservation. I think Plainfield's done pretty decent on conservation. I feel like Plainfield, where we've lacked a little bit, is preservation. And we're losing these spots that we can have preservation on. And this is a really nice location. You guys all know it, and you know it's behind your houses. It's, you know, I'm not as close as you guys are, but I'm gonna deal with this.
Walk down my hill and I'll be there.
I already deal with effects of U-line, and that's gonna be, you know, and I know that's not here or there. I'm on my road, right? We talk about not having, you know, truck traffic, you know, not pollution, you know, no things leaking. So, not that it's your problem right now or whatever, but Casella, when they come and pick up my trash every week on Monday, I know that they came through because I can follow the oil spots from one garbage can to the next. Right? So that's one truck going on one route on a Monday. When you start taking all these in, you know, I believe they're supposed to, you know, have mechanics on site that are supposed to actually tell you quantify how much fluids are being put into these vehicles and stuff. I don't know. I don't know if that's happening or not. Is there any intention, whether you guys can answer this or not, we already did, and I know it's a sore spot somewhere in town, but is there any intention of railroad use, of exploiting railroad use within our town? Because that'd be a real convenient way to get garbage in and out of our town, and we could bring it in from further locations, and it costs you a little bit less. So I was just curious if you guys thought about railroad access and putting in a spur to your location. Because Rawson and O&G already has a spur, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, that helped you guys a lot, right?
We have
Yeah, you do a lot of
potentially
aggregate.
looked at that, or we're looking at that.
Yeah.
As far as
You are looking at train access.
Yes, we
Okay.
are.
That'll mess
Okay.
up the traffic pretty good. We
Yeah.
already sit there for half hour.
Right, so we got some,
Didn't see that in the presentation.
you know, I'd be curious to get AV technicians out here, and we talked about, I know, sound and whatnot, we talked about decibel levels. Garbage truck driving by, if you put an SPL on it, it's over 100 decibels, or right around 100 decibels. So, you know, I believe the regulations you're talking about are at your property line. Those vehicles are coming in and out of your property line over 100 decibels all the time. And then, you know, it's technically part of your operation when they're coming in from anywhere else, and they're driving through our town and right by our house at 100 decibels plus. Just something that I would think would be nice to consider. One thing that I'd like to know, is this slide deck available for our people here in Plainfield? With all your videos, links, full access, is this slideshow available, and can it be made available to us, posted maybe on our municipal website, something like that, so we can just review the content that you showed us?
So we can't control what goes on your municipality's website.
But can you give that to Mr. Cunningham, and then we can talk to him about it?
Absolutely. I'm not sure that your town's website can handle the full recording. The slides, absolutely. But what I can tell you is that QR code will have the entire recording of this meeting. And there's another QR code in the back with the same QR code.
Sure. And we can link to that through our municipal site then. You'll host the video.
Exactly right.
Okay.
We'll also host the slides.
Unedited.
Yes, sir. Part of the record.
Perfect.
Absolutely. That's why we've got all the cameras and the mics.
Yep.
The AV equipment is here to record everything. And you have access to it by just clicking on your phones now, or the website's written, but it's kind of small. You can see it better in the.
Okay, thank you. It's available. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Am I wrong, the O&G, when you guys were in there, you did an environmental impact study, and am I wrong, you had to relocate or rehabitat some kind of a protected species, a salamander or a toad or something like that? Is that a thing? You can say yes or no. I don't need to know details, just yes or no.
Yes.
Yes, okay, you really relocated a protected species?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, because those protected species do good in your habitat that you built them?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. I do, once again, apply from a family member to family, you guys have family. We've had a lot of industry come in to our town, local, recently, and I think we're still kind of acclimating to that. Okay, so that's, something that I just would like to keep in mind. The only other thing, and to, the nice lady behind me was talking about your presentation and how wonderful it was. We didn't see any actual video footage of functioning plants. I think that would have been really important to see actual video footage of that. I'm a teacher by trade, and I teach a 3D animation class. And you have some really awesome 3D animations up there. And one of the things that I always tell my students is, when you're 3D animating using the software, you put cameras in certain places, and I only know what you're going to show me. So you can have a lot of sin, you can have a lot of mess, you can have holes and tears in your projects and your meshes, but it's okay if you're only showing me the good stuff. And that was a pretty nice presentation. So maybe, I can take that to my students and say, hey, this is a good way to use it. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you. Hey guys, we're only gonna get this going, or if we follow what Carla was saying, like we go to Hartford and we talk to people and we do this. I don't know that it's here, and we're not gonna get to vote on it, so it's up to us, right? So do something if you're gonna do something. I like it. Thank you, sir.
Howdy, I'm Ken Blair. I'm in Plainfield. I moved to this town because I grew up in a little farming community too. And I like it here. I fished in that Municipal River. I fished the Quannabug. I've been up and down that thing in a canoe. I kind of like it out here. I don't like having to worry about garbage. I drank the water at Camp Lejeune. I've already been affected by piss-ass water. You know, this polluted water. And I don't need any more of it. I don't need to breathe in this crap. I don't need to have the water polluted around here. And I don't believe that you guys can protect it as much as you're telling us. I have a feeling, most of you guys, I mean, when is this thing going to be built if you didn't get permission to build it? How long would it take?
36 to 48 months.
So in 4 years from now, we could have all this crap coming in here. No matter what these people say, no matter what I have to say, we all have to be up in Hartford. I was in Hartford the other day. I saw our state rep. I talked to her. She said, oh, if I have time, I might stop in here. Well, we saw how long Ann was here. She didn't stay here long enough to hear what the hell the people had to say. She got to hear what these guys had to say. It's about time she stood up for the damn people in Plainfield, never mind just the ones in Kilkenny in her damn neighborhood. My feeling is, go away. Enough is enough, like somebody else already said. We've had it. We've got enough crap around here. We're breathing the air from Lisbon. We've got the stuff from Preston. We got a wood burning plant. I lived up by that damn tire burning plant. We've got enough stuff around here. Go somewhere else, please. Thank you.
Put it in Torrington.
Try to put a Litchfield or something.
Hi, I'm back. I couldn't help myself. I think I moved it down. So I said my piece earlier, my main piece, but just seeing all of this, I'm newer to town myself. I wasn't expecting the turnout or the amount of comments that we got. I wasn't expecting dodgy answers from only a couple of folks on this panel. I was expecting more from you guys and to hear more from each and every one of you. So now that I think we've maybe only got a couple more people who want to speak, I'm tired. I have a 9 a.m. meeting in the morning. But I wanted to ask from the people who weren't able to speak, not from an engineering standpoint, because you're all intelligent folks, and we've heard from a lot of smart folks today, and those not sitting next to this smart lawyer, what did you take away from what everybody had to say? I want to hear from those who haven't spoken at this panel. Please. If they don't, that's fine. They can choose not to. I'm not going to force anybody to speak, but you've heard from a lot of intelligent folks. You've heard from lawyers, environmental lawyers. You've heard from multiple engineers, safety professionals, people who know things about this industry, and I was even surprised by how intelligent these people were, and people in my town were. Like I said, I just moved here, so I didn't know anybody here before I came here. So, but I'm happy I came tonight, but I really am surprised by the lack of comments from the panel. So can somebody, a couple of folks who haven't spoken, please say something about what you've heard tonight.
I'll be happy with you saying goodbye and leaving.
No, seriously, I want to hear what you guys have to say. We're all exhausted, we're tired, we've all taken up a lot of our time, including you guys. What do you guys think about this? What do you guys feel about this? And what you've heard tonight? Do you really not care? I don't believe that. You're people. I don't believe that you don't care. Somebody say something.
They don't care. They're not paid to give their opinion. They don't care.
You're not going to hear my answer.
That you told them not to say anything because you're the lawyer?
No, not at all. She has somebody to answer.
Not
and
you.
I understand that, but I'm the guy who's brave enough to do it. I think this is an incredibly motivated and intelligent group of people, Jesse. I think these are people who care about their community deeply.
You ain't seen the last of us yet.
I don't expect that I have. And I fully have come away with the realization of how much this affects you and how much this means to you. And in addition to Rick, I will personally go to the board, not this board, but the board of the owners, and I will tell them what I saw.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Is anyone else brave enough now that he broke the ice to answer? Very eloquently. This is a little, I mean, thank you for your answer, but I'm a little disappointed, I'm not gonna lie, but thanks everyone. Have a good night.
I appreciate all your input tonight. I don't need a microphone. It's great that you all came out. That's why we are here. We are all listening. I'm involved in the site design and the stormwater management. There weren't a lot of questions about that, so that's why you didn't hear from me. But asking me to speak, that's why I'm speaking. So I appreciate all your input. And then again, like I said, that's why we're here. We're hearing all your input. We take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Michael, 10-year resident, Plainfield. I just have a couple quick questions. It should be pretty simple. Has anyone in this panel spoken to anybody in leadership in town, such as council, selectmen, and gotten their opinions of this? How about you, Mr. Horwell? You own a property and you own businesses in town. Do you have communications with the town leaders?
Well, basically, my first experience with the town was a couple of years ago when we had a discussion with police. And we have provided the office of the first selectman with all of the relevant information on everything that we've been doing since day one. With any documents that have to be filed, we've provided that so that the town would be fully informed of everything that we've been doing. And that includes this evening's presentation. We obviously had to have interface in order to be able to use the auditorium and do all of the other things. So in terms of having communications with the town, it's basically been to move forward with the permitting process and the dialogue.
Great.
Tonight, as I indicated when I first got up, the purpose for this meeting is so that we can listen to what you have to say, you as a town residents. And it's been more than a year ago. It's been obvious that there's a lot of deep feeling by a lot of people. So we have to go back and review what's been said and have a discussion amongst ourselves and decide what it is that we want to do. As far as we haven't really had a in-depth discussion except to indicate what the benefits of our project would be for the community to a certain extent. And it's still a work in progress.
Did you receive positive support from people that you spoke to regarding your idea and their belief that it was over
I
there?
don't think we had a reaction. First of all, what you heard tonight was a detailed presentation of all of the different elements of the project. We did not do that with anybody in this town until this evening.
Okay. Have you had a positive or a single person that you've interacted with in this town regarding this project as a resident that has been approved or wants to have this happen?
I haven't asked anybody for approval. I've said this is what we're going to try and do, and then it's up to you to react to it. And I don't have a clear reaction from anybody at this point.
So this wasn't clear? I think it's pretty clear, sir.
Excuse me. You asked me if I talked to somebody in a position of leadership in this community. And I said I have not received any reaction from anybody in leadership in this company. I know what I did.
Has that changed your mind at all?
It gives you pause because I take it into consideration. There's also other elements that I'm aware of, that a lot of people in this room tonight are not aware of.
Did you include those in your presentation, or is that information that you're aware of, that you're making decisions based on decisions on available to people out here who have to deal with your decisions?
Well, no, I think there's a lot of decisions, a lot of information that's available, publicly available to anybody with a brain, okay? If you want to sit down and take a look at what the situation in Connecticut is right now, we used to have resource recovery authorities processing the bulk of our MSW. And now what we have is we have a bunch of landfills in New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, where we take our garbage and dump it in a dump.
We're aware of that. You made that clear.
And then you get the environmental gasification, greenhouse gas elements coming back by the ton on a regular basis without anybody focusing on that as a key issue.
Great.
The question then becomes one of who owns the landfills and who benefits from the operation and the ownership of those landfills. And you're going to see in the near term that a lot of the people that are owning landfills, where this is going, are people from Connecticut. And that is not something that has been on the front page of any newspaper that I've read in the last couple of years. But the bottom line is that the cost of MSW processing has jumped up this year alone from like $120.
You're just taking facts. I get it. It's not in my question at all.
By the end of the year, it's going to be $150.
Right, it's not part of my question. You're taking this opportunity to speak your mind and try to sell to people on something. That's not my question. So my next question is this an incinerator plant or is this an incinerator?
No.
So why does it require you to file under your permits underneath the incinerator?
That's the legislation that's...
So we did point it out in the slide deck. This technology is too new to fit squarely under any DEEP program other than incineration. DEEP has made it a requirement to put it in there. However, we are not incinerating the waste. The waste, as the gentleman from Bloom Energy pointed out, is going to be oxidized using a chemical reaction. So it is not incineration.
Then the fuel is burned after that.
Done. There is no combustion.
There's no heat involved at all.
Throughout the evening, one person says one thing, another person says another. I just want to ask 3 separate times to make sure it's consistent.
No combustion in the gas.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I'm the last one, I swear. Don't worry, you don't have to say anything. This is last 30 seconds, I promise. Oxford Dictionary says incineration is the destruction of something, especially waste material, by burning. And if you look up the definition of burning, it means to heat something until it is something else. So therefore, this is incineration, and maybe not by the government standard, but by Oxford Dictionary it is. As well as, I do not enjoy when you say the information is online, the reports are online for anyone with half a brain. Yep. You do realize I have a master's degree, but I also have a 50-hour-a-week job. I'm on several boards. I do a lot, and I have a child. And so it's not just that we have half a brain. It is that there's so much information out there. So, please never, ever, ever say that in any presentation you ever do again, or answering any question, because you just insulted everyone in this room. No, please. Yep, please put your hand on him to stop him, because this is not okay. And Kevin, I know you're watching from your office, and there's probably a reason for that rather than being out here, but they just said that they presented this to you and sent all those things, and which you did, because Art and Peggy both have said yes, they have, and obviously they've been following this from the ground up. But I just want to let you know that we need representation. We need representation, and we need people to stand up to people who say that we are half-brained. We are not half-brained. We are smart, and we are intelligent, and we know what's best for us. So thank you.
That's one way to
Thank you, Sam. I was actually offended too, but I was just wanted to ask a question.
So you didn't have to mention.
Several people told me he was wrong.
I know. Hi, I'm Lois Point. I'm a resident of Plainfield. This is a tough crowd for you guys. I just wanted to know, other than Plainfield, obviously you made a very short list. What other towns were you considering before you decided on Plainfield?
None. He owns the property. It was his idea to sell the property. Let me answer.
Right, he bought the property, but I'm sure they looked around for other places to build.
No, they own the property.
It's a gravel pit.
He owns the property. It's his business.
No, we looked at other places, but this appeared to be the best location for the size of the facility.
It's his property.
Project owns the
Can I ask which towns that you looked at besides Plainfield?
I did not look.
No, I'm asking as general.
No, we had, when we first put this together, there were a number of towns that had been looked at by participants that are in the SMART project.
Just in Connecticut or?
Connecticut.
Just Connecticut.
Right.
Why just Connecticut? Why not Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New York?
Well, we're here and we're familiar with the waste situation, the MSW processing system, and the fact that we're sending more than 1 million tons of our waste to landfills so we can inhale the gas when it comes back.
So who made the short list before you decided Plainfield?
Plainfield was really the primary from the size of the project.
So when you started this project, Plainfield was your goal?
No. It ended up being the goal because it's available. We have ownership interest in it. We're familiar with the property. We have detailed analysis of what's on the property. You heard Mr. Rodette describe the electricity, the gas, and all the other elements that came together to make it work out.
Yes, this is there.
Thank you so much.
Not electricity. None of it's there. So she asked the question, what the town do you consider? You didn't answer that.
No, I didn't.
So you didn't
Because
consider
we
any
didn't
towns?
look at any towns that were going to be able to take care of a facility this size. This was the right place for it.
But you just stated, though, that you did not only consider Plainfield, that it was on the list, there were others.
I didn't say there was, I said there were, the preliminary view was looking at other towns, but it was a much smaller facility. That's all.
Were any of them on the western side of the state? Or were they all on the east?
Did you hear that?
Were they all on the western side of did you only look at the eastern side of the state, or did you look at the west?
So I don't know that everybody could hear the question, so I'm just gonna repeat it, and sir, if I get it wrong, let me know. But the question was whether or not we looked at anything on the western side of the state.
Exactly.
So the answer to that is yes, we did look at sites west of the Connecticut River. There were a couple of sites that we looked at in the New Haven and North Haven area earlier on as part of the AWTI half of SMART, but those sites didn't pan out.
How you doing? Can I just ask a question? Looks like you two guys here are kind of like the bosses of the people or something. No, you're answering all the questions, so.
Probably the owner.
I mean, I got a little drone, you know, and I flew it all around the area, and I counted like 450 houses within a mile of 350, 400, I don't know. A lot of houses close to it, right? Could you look me in the eye and tell me that you really believe that that's a good location for a power plant?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That is bullshit. That is bullshit.
Would you live right there? Your backyard.
Company.
Okay. Thank you, all of you who stuck it out until the end. It is appreciated. One thing that one of the speakers brought up is that it's not an easy thing to come up here and ask us questions, and that's certainly the case. I anticipate that as you look at the materials and as you go home and you think about other things, you're going to have questions, you're going to have additional comments. You may also do that on our website. There's a button to click to add questions and comments. All of your questions and all of your comments will be answered, and they will be made part of the DEEP record. So if you click on those buttons or or send us an email. You can ask questions and make comments that way. Thank you all for coming.
Will the answers to our questions be returned to us? Because I've
No.
posted several questions.
No, sir, they will not be returned to you, but they will be on the
record.
It's going to be part of the
So we
public.
have no way to, rebut your response.
I'll tell you what, sir, come see me afterwards. If you've got questions, I'll give you my card and I will answer you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you all.
Take your exploitation somewhere else.